rhythm of their instrument with that of others. And it is such a beautiful atmosphere that anyone who has been there will want to come back there again and again. Interacting with artists always brings happiness. It brings happiness because they are satisfied with so little. Just after a hard day's work, when they sit around a fire or they sit around just together without anything and enjoy themselves, just to see that happiness makes you feel that, why is there so much of want in me? We as urban people have a lot of wants. We want this, we want that, we want proper degrees, we want a proper job, we want to earn a lot of money. There are so many things we want. To these people, the folk artists, for whom music and dance is their only source of sustenance, there is a lot of happiness. Whereas we have so much more, yet we have no happiness. So this is what I have had a very long journey with them. When I started interacting with the artists, say about 30 years back, my bags were empty. Today they are totally full because of the experiences that I have gathered by working with these people, by being with these people, by sharing their lives. They have shared their lives, their hopes, their aspirations, their dreams with us. And I think that my life has got enriched by just their sharing. We believe in a lot of plenitude, whereas they believe in total simplicity. And because their wants are so little, I can give you so many examples. I'd like to give you a few examples. Once we were doing a program at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, for whatever reason it may be, the president could not attend that particular program. The moment we heard that, I was anchoring the program, and I know that my performance fell several notches. And the choreographer who had choreographed the presentation, she also lost interest in the program. Because we go with expectations that we are going to perform in front of the President of India, and that is what we want. But we had to inform all our folk artists also because they were brought for a particular program. So I remember there was a group of girls and boys from Mizoram, all dressed, ready to go on stage, and they were told that the program is now of a smaller scale. President of the country is not attending the program, but we were still going ahead with the program. They were playing Ludo because they were backstage. There was time for their performance because in all these VVIP programs, we get our artists ready very fast. So they have a lot of time to kill. They heard us and continued with their game of Ludo. It had no effect on them because to them, they are artists. It doesn't matter who's sitting in front. They will perform, and they will perform to the best of their ability. That is happiness, because they can adjust to any situation. I remember a girl who sat next to me on a flight when we were going for a Incredible India program to Singapore. This was many years back, and in those days, there was a lot of disembarkation cards and things like that. Now, just before we were, and this girl had a very smart message written on her T-shirt. She was very beautiful and with a very smart message written on her T-shirt. And she was like any urban girl. When I asked, just before disembarkation, she told me, "Auntie, fill your own form and then fill my form for me." I said, "You should be saying the opposite, that Auntie, you're old, so I'll fill my form and then help you to fill your form." She said, "I don't know how to read or write." It really surprised me, and I asked her about her background. She comes from an absolutely interior rural village of Rajasthan. And she was a Kalbelia dancer, a dance of the snake charmers of Rajasthan. And when I asked her about her life, she said that, she comes from a very, very poor family. And she was married off when she was 2 months old. And her sister was married at the same ceremony. And her sister was 2 years old. Her grandfather had died. And her father had to feed the whole village. And just for one occasion, he couldn't afford feeding the whole village. So he got both his daughters married. And I said, like, how did the wedding take place? She said, oh, I was put on a thali and just taken around my 2-year-old groom. I said, now, suppose your groom never comes back for you. I said, what does he do? He said, he studies in a college. So suppose he never comes back for you. He said, it's okay, I'm very happy. And I'm having a great life. I said, and suppose he comes back for you and he tells you not to dance anymore and to start looking after his household. He said, I'll be very happy then too. This is what happiness is. She's willing to accept life as it comes to her. She has no expectations. If her husband comes back for her, she will go with him, giving up such a beautiful career as a dancer. If he doesn't come, she will continue as a dancer. Either way, she will be happy. This is what happiness is all about. Or I'll give you another instance of, again, a young girl with a crying baby standing backstage to go in for dancing. Baby was barely maybe 4 or 5 months old, and I was really worried because I was the only other woman backstage. And I was worried that she would hand over her crying baby to me and go in for dancing, because she was totally in costume. So I kept asking her that, like, your baby is crying and you're dressed. How will you go into dance? She said, oh, his papa will come. Sure enough, a little while later, papa playing one of their instruments, danced out of the stage, took the child, and she danced in. And after she came out, she told me, she said, for you people, when you have a child, you can afford to rest, you can afford to take leave. If we don't dance and if we don't continue with our work, we will not get to eat. So I danced on the day my child was born, and from the time he's 7, we are traveling with him because that is part of our life. But there was no regret in her voice. There was nothing. She just said it very matter-of-factly, and that is what happiness is all about. So it's not just the rhythm in the dance that brings happiness, it is the mindset also. And I think they have the most beautiful mindset because their lives are so intertwined with the performing arts that is where their true happiness comes from. And I consider myself and all my colleagues at my Zonal Cultural Center to be very fortunate that we work in such close association with these beautiful people who teach us how to be happy, how to be satisfied with less, how to see happiness all around. And that is the best part of my job. I think with these few words, I would like to end today. But if anyone has something to ask me, I will be most happy to answer.
Thank you, Gauri, for making some time to join us in this meeting and share your beautiful thoughts. Okay, so probably the participants, they have some questions. Let me to check if they have some questions. Okay. Okay, so in case no one has any question, then I have a question for Gauri. Actually, I'm just trying to understand the topic that we are supposed to talk about, that rhythm and dance. So most of the time, so I'm a linguist, okay, by profession. So most of the time we are actually dealing with this intonation, we are dealing with stress, accent, okay, this sorts of thing. And also we are also talking about the rhythm. So the way actually these tonal variations are there in our articulations, okay. So, but in case of dance, what seems to me quite interesting is this one, that in case of dance, we have the sounds we have the voices, and along with these two things, we have one another more things. That one is the human body. Okay, so how with the help, how which type of role rhythm actually plays through these bodies actually, and in your case it seems to be more interesting because the way you have actually bring into the concept of a group dance you are actually talking about, when not only a single body, in fact there are more than one bodies, okay, and these bodies are actually interacting with each other, they are actually moving in the space, okay, how these things are playing some role in communicating the rhythm or the chando, if you can.
So I'll just come to the research and tell you.
Yeah.
Uh, to answer your question, I think I will divide my dance into two broad groups. One group I will call the folk tribal dances, the other is the classical dance forms. The basic difference between the two is that in folk and tribal art forms, the dance is an expression of the joy and the inner feelings of a person. Classical dance form is something that is learnt with a lot of sadhana, with a lot of effort. It is learnt. The two are completely different. One is in the folk and tribal art forms that we see, rhythm is innate in them. It is something that is within them. And in the expression, when are these folk dances usually performed? On all happy occasions, after a good harvest, during weddings, on the birth of a child, during festivals. So every occasion is happy occasion. And that inner rhythm that they have within themselves finds expression through their body movements. In case of the classical dance forms, it is very different. Here it is a learnt rhythm, and it is through this learnt rhythm, when there's a group of dancers who are dancing together, I think they also interact with each other through their body movements and through the rhythm that they're expressing through their body movements. So here it is more of an interaction, more of a sharing, and more of being with each other and doing something together in the form of a group. These are the two ways in which we express, and the two expressions are very different from each other.
Thank you, Gauri. So I think we can take two more questions. So this one is by Shoporno Roy, and he wrote here that thank you for the talk, ma'am. The example you gave of the Rashtrapati Bhavan was prompted me to ask this question. In your opinion, whether the performance, now within bracket he has written, and the happiness comes with it, is derived from the audience it is for, or is the performer happy just because he or she gets to perform regardless of audience?
Okay. Now, it is a combination of both. Again, if I go back to the folk and tribal dances, it is the happiness of yourself, because in a folk or tribal performance which is taking place in a village, they are performing, everyone is performing, everyone is a performer. So it is a performance that you're doing for yourself. And this is something that they also bring to the stage when they are performing. But for an urban performer, a classical performer, the audience reaction is very important. When you find an appreciative audience, I think your performance level also goes up. Sometimes, I don't know, some artists like to have the lights on in the auditorium because they like to see the audience reaction. Again, there are some artists who like to have the lights off because they like to concentrate fully on their dance. Because if they see the audience reaction, they might get distracted, so they like to keep the audience in the dark so that their concentration does not waver at all. So I think it depends on individual to individual performers are concerned. But as far as rural performers are concerned, It is their inner joy that they are expressing, and they will dance joyfully, happily, whether there's an audience, whether there is no audience. In the recent times, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have been making artists perform in their own homes, shooting a video and sending it to us for uploading in our social media handles. We have also done programs with them in empty auditoriums. We have done a shooting of the same and done a live telecast of the same. Now, I have not found any difference in their performance levels. So sometimes I think dancing for yourself is also very important, and it is definitely done by a large number of artists.
I think Shamati.
Yeah. So you should give me the permission to unmute myself. Otherwise, I can't unmute myself. Okay. Thank you, Gauri. One another question I have, and this is the last question for you. So it is written here that could you suggest some ways in which we can adjust to any adverse situation? How does performers handle negative reinforcements? So actually, two questions are there.
Yeah. I think the best way to handle is by not allowing anyone else to hold the key to your happiness. It is definite that if I get a negative or adverse comment about my performance, it will make me extremely upset. But I have to teach myself to ignore it and take the better, whatever has been said, whatever adverse has been said, I have to see out of it which is relevant. I will take the relevant part and help myself to improve with that relevant part and ignore what is unimportant. And I will not allow somebody else to hold the key to my happiness. My happiness should always be with me. This is a philosophy that I personally follow, and I think it has worked for me.
Okay, another question. It seems to me, and it is in Bengali. So Rudroji Das Thakur উনি জিজ্ঞেস করছেন, লিখেছেন এখানে, রাঢ়বঙ্গের একটি গ্রামে এক ধরনের গ্রাম্য নাচ আমি দেখি, ভুয়াং। সেখানে এক দলের মধ্যে গ্রাম্যতা থাকলেও আরেক দলের নাচের মধ্যে অনেক শহুরে বাদ্যযন্ত্র ভর করে, হ্যাঁ, অনেক শহুরে বাদ্যযন্ত্র এসে জুটেছে আর কি। হ্যাঁ, বিশ্বায়ন কি এক নাচের আনন্দকে গ্রাস করে নিচ্ছে?
দেখুন, আমি কিন্তু এটা কখনোই মনে করি না, কারণ আমি মনে করি we have to move with the times. অনেক সময় অনেক নাচ যেগুলো খুব ট্র্যাডিশনাল নাচ, সেই নাচের মধ্যে এখন অনেক মডার্ন এলিমেন্টস ঢোকানো হচ্ছে। সবসময় যে মডার্ন এলিমেন্টস ঢোকালে নাচটা খারাপ হয়ে যাচ্ছে তা কিন্তু নয়। মাঝে মাঝে কিছু মডার্ন এলিমেন্টস ঢুকিয়ে নাচটাকে ভালো করে দিতে পারি। যেমন আমি আপনাকে একটা উদাহরণ দিচ্ছি, এই যে আমাদের বাংলার যে পুরুলিয়া ছৌ নাচের যে মুখোশটা, সেটার এত ওজন হতো যে সেই ওজনে ওদের পক্ষে ওই অ্যাক্রোব্যাটিক মুভমেন্ট গুলো করা কিন্তু খুব কঠিন হতো, কিন্তু তাও তারা করতো। এখন একটি এনজিও অনেক কাজ করে সেই মুখোশগুলোকে কিন্তু অনেক হালকা করে দিয়েছে, তাতে নাচের কোয়ালিটি কিন্তু অনেক ইমপ্রুভ করে গেছে। কারণ হচ্ছে তারা এখন অনেক ফ্রিলি অ্যাক্রোব্যাটিক মুভমেন্টস করতে পারছে। এখন কিছু আমাদের বাংলার রায়বেশে নাচে, এখন অনেকে বলছে রায়বেশে নাচের আর সেই পুরনো রায়বেশে নাচটা নেই, এখন অনেক গিমিক এসে গেছে। এখন দেখুন, ডান্সারদের তো সার্ভাইভ করতে হবে, এবং সার্ভাইভ করতে হলে তো তাকে তো এই সময়ের সাথে সাথে চলতে হবে। সুতরাং তারা যদি কিছু জিনিস, কিছু অ্যাক্রোব্যাটিক মুভমেন্ট যেগুলোকে আমরা মনে করছি একটু গিমিকি, সেগুলোকে যদি একটু ঢোকায়, সেটা তো এখন ইয়াঙ্গার জেনারেশন বলুন বা ওয়েস্টার্ন এডুকেটেড জেনারেশন এগুলোকে বেশি পছন্দ করছে। ওরা যদি সেটাকে একটু ঢোকায় তাতে কিন্তু কোনো ক্ষতি নেই। একদম ট্র্যাডিশনাল জিনিস কিন্তু এখন সবসময় চলে না। কিছু মিউজিকের ইমপ্রুভমেন্ট হলে নাচ অনেক বেটারও হয় অনেক সময়। সুতরাং সবকিছু খারাপ তা নয়, কিছু কিছু জিনিস কিন্তু ঢুকিয়ে কিছু খারাপ হয় না, ভালো হয়। এই যে আমাদের আর্টিস্টরা একসঙ্গে কাজ করে, আমরা দেখেছি পুরুলিয়া ছৌয়ের আর্টিস্টরা সিকিমের সিঙ্গি ছামের সিংহটাকে অনেকটা নকল করেছে ওদের নাচে, তাতে কিন্তু ওদের নাচ অনেকটা ভালোই হয়ে গেছে, কিছু খারাপ হয়নি। বা অনেক ফোক মুভমেন্ট ক্লাসিক্যাল ডান্সাররা তাদের নাচের মধ্যে নিয়েছে, জাস্ট টু মেক দ্য ডান্স মোর এক্সাইটিং, মোর ইন্টারেস্টিং। তাতে ওদের নাচ কিন্তু অনেক বেটার হয়েছে, কিছু খারাপ হয়নি।
It seems we don't have any more question.
Shamita, and there are many participants from outside Bengal, so for them, you can just translate the gist of this question.
Yeah. So actually
I could have done it in English, but I just thought that since the question has been asked to me in Bangla, I should answer in Bangla.
No, thank you.
Okay, so if no one has any question, then I have one more question for you, ma'am. In one point of your discussion, you have told that our ability to dance is in some way is innate. Okay, so is it the case? Are you talking about our ability to dance, or our we are actually programmed to move in the space that is innate? Because if we are claiming that our ability to dance is innate, then definitely everyone can become a good dancer. Okay, so what is your opinion in this case? Why it is the case that some of the people can only become a good dancer, whereas others can't?
Okay. Number one is, as far as our village populations are concerned, they have their dances for different occasions where everybody participates. Some may dance better, some may dance worse. It is an expression of joy. Some express their joy better, some express their joy less. Some may do it, some may dance better, some may dance less, because the innate rhythm in them is more. As far as dancing, classical dancing is concerned, you have to have a sense of rhythm in you, otherwise you cannot dance. More than that, I think it is your training and how much you put into your training. You cannot expect to be a good dancer by just taking it very lightly. It is a sadhana. I said it right at the beginning, and that is something that we have to accept. Someone who can do it. Why is it that musicians, dancers have spent so much part of their day in just practicing? That is so much necessary in order to do your work well. And I think that is true for anything. If I want to excel in my study, I have to put in that effort. So in everything, it is the effort. I'm not saying that of course you can increase your sense of rhythm, you can increase your sense of melody, you can increase these things, but part of it is within you. Everyone has that, a part of it within themselves. It may be more, it may be less, but everyone has a bit of it within themselves.
Thank you, ma'am. So if there is no other question, then on behalf of the organizing committee of Rhythm, let me to extend my sincere gratitude to Mrs. Gauri, if I'm not wrong, let me to check. Yeah, Mrs. Gauri Bosu. Thank you, ma'am, for being with us, and you have shared nicely your thought with some very real world type of experience. Thank you. So now should we move to the next speaker?
Yes, I think Professor Moina Ghosh is with us. We can move on to the next.
Okay. Yeah, so our next speaker is Professor Moina Ghosh, and his topic is rhythm and design. He is from the Department of Architecture, Jadavpur University, and he is working here as a professor. So, with 15 years of teaching and professional experience in prestigious institutions like IIT Kharagpur, Loreto Kolkata, and Kanpur University, Professor Moina Ghosh currently holds the office of the head of the Department of Architecture, Jadavpur University. His research interest revolves around environmental perception, urbanism, design, and culture. Prior to academic career, he was prior to academic career. Okay, just sorry. Prior to academic career, he was part of a multinational corporate with consulting experience in the field of design, cognitive, and behavioral study of experiential aspects. His notable architectural design ideations include Panchanan Burma Government University and Kuch Bihar Engineering College in the state of West Bengal, India, working as a consortium. He has several prominent accolades, publications, and projects to his credit. His recent edited book on built environment of Global South is noticeably addition to Springer Nature, Switzerland. He has been invited speaker to the Smart Cities Congress in Paris in the year 2015, and his artworks have been exhibited in Berlin. He has traveled exhaustively to North and South America, United Kingdom, Africa, and Asia for his project works and allied research. So let me to welcome Dr. Moina Ghosh. Professor Ghosh, it's over to you now.
Thank you very much. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So a very nice afternoon, and I really loved the talk or discussion which was happening prior discussion with Gauri Madam. So it is in tune, and what a wonderful topic that has been chosen as a theme, that is rhythm. It's actually raining here right now. I can see outside the window, and there's a rhythm in which the raindrops fall. So in nature, we see rhythm all the time. Today, I am to present a discourse on rhythm and design. So let me just share with you one presentation. Is my presentation visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So today, basically, something which we are to talk for next 2 or 3 days is on various aspects of rhythm. And to start with, me being a designer, or I believe much of the audience is from a background where rhythm is part of the pedagogy and rhythm is part of day-to-day experience and profession. So I just looked into the academic, tried to look into the academic view of that, or more of a formal approach of how we define rhythm, because we see rhythm, we feel rhythm, we talk about rhythm, but when it comes to the definition or the pedagogical aspects, how do we really define it? So going by the dictionary meaning, basically there are 3 major chunks that we can look at. So it talks about it's a strong pattern of sounds, words, or musical notes that is used in music, poetry, and dancing. Of course, we have been talking about that just prior to my talk, and we learned about that from a master. And the other aspect is a regular movement. There's a sense of movement, there's a pattern of movement. There's some kind of pattern we associate with, some kind of movement we associate with, and hence rhythm. And the third, and not last but not the least, but a regular pattern of change, especially that one that happens in nature. So it's again talking about a pattern which we are used to recognize. That's something to do with our cognitive system. So when I looked into these 3 aspects and breaking it further, making it more going deep diving into the discourse, if you look at the first aspect, right? So it's a pattern is the common thing that we keep on seeing, but talking about the pattern of sound or music or words and how we weave them together to form something has a notion of man-made aspect, right? So it's not really to do with, just not to do with nature or what we experience in our surrounding environment in natural form, but human beings actually make use of rhythm. Human beings are able to create rhythm rather. So that's a very, very interesting thing. Many a times I will be talking about it in detail a little bit later, but many of the aspects of design that we look at, the elements or principles of design are actually processes, and you are not really able to create that. You just use that, right? But rhythm is something which is there. You of course use that, but you are able to create that also. You can create rhythm. So that's something very interesting aspect inherent with the with the property of rhythm itself. The other part is where we are talking about movement or something like that. Movement is basically change of position. It's a displacement. It's something measurable, right? So rhythm is a very, very what I would say physical aspect in that term. It has dimensions. It's measurable. We can very clearly define that this pattern is different from that pattern in terms of XYZ. So we can do that. So that's another thing. And then third, which is also is evolving from the pattern itself, that it has got a form. And needless to say, objects of design will take some form. Again, we will discuss about this just in a while. So anything that starts taking a form, anything that is there in the environment in terms of 3-dimension or 2-dimension, which starts taking a form in it, is something where we can experience rhythm and we can compare based on the measurable terms, or we can replicate that. We can make a rhythm out of it. So these are 3 very important chunks, which I will again go back to at the very last slide when I will be showing it. So now talking in terms of design, right? Design is a big field, right? Today we talk about design from product design to graphic design to animation to to buildings and cities, urban design, so social design. So design is rather more what I would say a more horizontal word today, which cuts across various verticals. So it could be art, or it could be visual art, and it could be product design, industrial design, this that. So, but essentially, when we look at design, like this is the famous Bauhaus kettle or to Sydney Opera House, I've placed them side by side. There is a sense of synonym, right? There's a sense of equation where we, as I said, and where is it coming from? From maybe that measurable dimension, maybe it is coming from that pattern aspect, maybe it is coming from that man-made thought process aspect. So we see there's a rhythm, we feel there's a rhythm, and there are notions where we can actually very clearly define them also. So objects of design, right? But then we know that design is not limited to, design is such a word or such a discourse or such a discipline or subject where it's not just about the object. When we talk about design has a ways to look at it. One is the noun form of design, which is the object itself. So when we look at the Sydney Opera House, it's a design, it's an architectural design. So we are looking at an architectural design right now on the screen, but then design has a process also. Design as a verb, it's a process. Designing, I am designing, a building or maybe a dress into fashion design, or it could be even the culinary art of food, where so it's about the process. So it has this twofold attribute to it. And very interestingly, if you look at design as a process, of course we know design as an object. It's very clearly defined, and we can see it all the time, starting from our mobile phones to our cars to furniture to our room, buildings everywhere, our dress. But when we look at the process also, it's a step-by-step process where we gather requirements, we ideate, we make something, we test it, and then you see these arrows which are moving, to and fro. Many a times when we are halfway, sketching the design, we think that maybe no, there must be something which is missing, and I go back. Again I do something, again I go back. So what I mean to say, the process of design also has a rhythmic pattern. I mean, it has a rhythm in that, very notion of doing the thing also. Of course, the object, visually, it's very easy to identify rhythm, see or feel, or, in case of performing arts or music, it's very easy to define rhythm. But in our day-to-day life, when we are in the process of designing also, rhythm plays a very important role, because we saw that very property of rhythm, which has those aspects, right? Which is a change of pattern. There's a movement. There's a sense of movement. So within our thoughts also, there's a sense of movement. There's a sense of going back and forth, and there's a sense of time and measurable aspects to it. So one dimension to that is of design is that how we relate to design. And of course, we have the designed objects, right? So we design objects. It's debatable, the kind of pictures that you see here. It could be debated that whether these are good designs or bad designs. That's a different notion. We are not getting into the aspect of judging design as such. But if we are looking at the object of design, we are necessarily looking at certain attributes of this object, based on which we are passing some judgment, whether good design, bad design, whether I like it or dislike it, whether I'll buy it or not buy it, things like that. So that is based on certain criteria. And what are those criteria? This is the famous Choosy Salif, Philip Stark's design, which is quite famous, but it is again questioned for its functionality and things like that. So we judge a form of design, an object of design, in terms of the form and function, right? So we start looking at its formal aspects, we start looking at its function aspects, right? Whether it will come handy, whether it will solve the purpose and things like that, and whether the form also, carries with it the aesthetic factors, whether it supports the functional aspects and things like that. So we have a sense of judgment based on these two aspects. We start judging a design. But then what is important for us, that's a different discourse. We are not this evening, we are not really discussing into the designs and whether it's a good design or bad design, or the success of the design, or the form for a function aspect. But when we are looking, whether we are looking at the object or the process, we see that rhythm is a very, very important driver for this. So I talked about the process itself, where you have a sense of rhythm there. And in the object itself, definitely in terms of visuality, in terms of tactile senses, there are sense of rhythm, because rhythm is one of the elements or principles of design that we will just in a while jump into. So rhythm plays a very important role in both of these things. One is the process and one is the form itself. So now we will slowly get into the form aspect. Whenever in a regular design aspect, we look into some of the elements and principles of design. This is fundamental design. So I looked into some of the curriculum of the design schools across disciplines, across geography, and you always have these two things, the elements of design and the principles of design. That's one of the key ingredients which are being brought into the pedagogical aspect, and we start from whenever we are talking about design, we learn about the fundamentals of design, and these are some of the elements. Of course, there could be more or less, or there could be priorities. So I just picked up some of them and tried to create a flow of analysis through that. So when we are talking about the elements of design, we talk about shape, color, texture, the sense of space, the positive, negative, or the foreground, background, the utilization of space so that it brings in a sense of harmony, or the spatial attributes of the design itself. It could be a visual design, it could be a three-dimensional design, or other forms of design also may could be derived from this. And then you have the size aspect, which in terms give rise to scale and proportion and these kind of things. And then important and interesting thing to note is rhythm has been taken outside this package, because rhythm is definitely an element. It serves its purpose as a pattern. You have a sense of comparison, right? You can distinguish between this rhythm and that rhythm, or this is more rhythmic, that has got less rhythmic. So definitely it's elemental. It's something which is the there's a sense of element there. But at the same time, rhythm is such an interesting thing that rhythm could be placed as a principle also, because there's a sense of rhythm. There's a notion of rhythm which is not necessarily an element. It's a principle, how we are using that principle and then using it in design. So that aspect is there. Now I will take a very different direction from here. I just when I was proposed with this very interesting topic, and I was asked if I could give a talk or we can have a discussion on this rather. So I thought that I'll be looking at it from a very different aspect. What is trending? We keep on talking about trends, and and right now we are going through a very, very difficult different times from what we traditionally see. So things are changing with we are spending more screen time and things like that. So I looked into the Google trends, right? And then I did a lot of these associations, tried to do a lot of associations. So I was trying to look at the trend of rhythm. How do people search or look at rhythm in conjunction to other design elements like shape, color, and space and size and things like that, when actually people are searching that worldwide, and we can have all these filters. I also looked at India, and in categories, there's a special category for visual design, and visual arts and design. And I found the trends are kind of similar. So when I looked into this, very interestingly, I found, so this has got a trend from 2004 to current time, so 2021, almost a period of more than 15 years. So we see that all through, and even in more recent times, this is last 5 years, if you look at that, the association of rhythm is rather low in terms of when people are trending about it. I mean, when we look at the trends, we see that the association of design with other elements is rather high in terms of, say, space and design or size and design. So the aspect of trend is higher compared to rhythm. Rhythm is, in fact, you can see the yellow line, which is almost at the bottom periphery. So it's very interesting to note that we don't really look at rhythm as a very important elemental aspect as such when we are comparing this. And this is perhaps coming from the dichotomy of rhythm as an element or a principle. So I'll come to that in a while. So this is one kind of statistics. And then I was looking at what about the other trends with other elements. I took out the rhythm because rhythm is abnormally low in terms of its data. So when I looked into other things, I saw that texture is scoring less. For other trends are there, but texture is something which is kind of low. I brought in texture and then took off the rhythm, so it kind of goes hand in hand. So something like that. This is more recent, last 5 years. What we have seen, and if you can see, 2020 onwards, the screen times are really increased because we see kind of a trend getting higher, and then last 12 months. So you can see the pattern is almost similar. If you look at the bar graph over there, so whether it's 5 years or 15 years or last 12 months, the pattern of that, or the rhythm in the graph is the same. It's so interesting to look at that. There's a rhythm of that blue, yellow, red, and purple, and that's kind of same for the thing. So what is the inference? The inference is in terms of elements, the size and shape is kind of scoring high, whereas the texture association of elements is kind of scoring low, right? So now I looked into elements of design in terms of rhythm. I was deliberately connecting these elements, other elements, and looking at the trends with rhythm. So if you see over here now, I've kept the same other elements, and then try to see that whether people really associate other elements with rhythm. And surprisingly enough, not much. So when we are talking about shape and rhythm, or color and rhythm, we see that it's not much happening. It's not much trending. So within this also we see that texture and space is rather a little high. And in recent times we see there's a surge in terms of texture, right? So in last 5 years or last 12 months, we see certain surges coming in terms of textural aspects and rhythm. So that's very interesting. That people are spending more time, in terms of physical being. So I will come to that in a while. So that is creating those differences. So talking about the what is the inference of this very small simple study. And so trends show that design association with elements of size and space is high, whereas texture is low. Whereas rhythm association with elements of texture is high and size is low. Just the opposite. When we are talking about design and different elements, we see that size and space are something people relate to. People are searching about it, but they're not really looking at texture that way. Whereas when we are actually talking about rhythm, we see rhythm as an association with texture, whereas the size aspect is low. And that's perhaps is the reason why rhythm is scoring low in terms of design and rhythm connection also. So that's something very interesting to note. And moving forward, now coming to the principles of design. So that led me to look at, what happens with certain principles that we talk about in design, like proportion, balance, contrast, harmony, movement, etc. And here also I have placed rhythm. Rhythm has got a special place over here also, because here it also relates to certain principles. It's element, but it's principle. And we know that some of these factors we use interchangeably also. Contrast is an element. Many designers or many professionals like to look at it in terms of element also, and then talk about contrast also, because they have the duality, just like design. Many a times they are noun and many a times there's verb. So rhythm also has that kind of a quality, and we look at that. But looking at the statistics doesn't look like, because rhythm especially has scores low, and here also we'll see that's the case. Here's the green line is the rhythm, and here also we see that it's kind of scoring low. So maybe there's a there's a conflict somewhere, whether we look at rhythm as an element or whether we look at rhythm as a play principle of design, and hence you don't really associate it with design and look at it maybe separately. Rhythm, perhaps from this discourse, we may even look at rhythm as something which has its own independent identity, which is like design itself. So where I'm going forward is like the way we talk about design, fashion design. Tomorrow there could be something which is like fashion rhythm, and that could be a discourse in itself. So perhaps this might give us a launching pad to think in those kind of direction, pedagogically speaking. And this is of a more recent trend, which is like last 5 years. Again, we see that towards this 1920, there's a surge in this kind of searches in terms of design. And so again, looking at, I took out the rhythm. because rhythm is something abnormal. It's behaving abnormally. So I kind of took it out, and I looked at, other aspects, and saw, how they are trending, and this is the statistics, and what do we find is that movement and balance, the principles of movement and balance is something very, very important to design, and they kind of score high in terms of, you can again see the bar chart. And where is harmony, where we talk about the harmony and, harmony in design, or, the compositional aspects where you have accentuation or harmony or kind of consistency, those kind of aspects is scoring low in terms of other elements of design. It's kind of a combination of them together. And when we insert, rhythm into it, what happens? So now proportion and rhythm. Are people really looking at proportion and rhythm together? Are people really looking at balance and rhythm together? Because when there's a rhythm, we heard about dance. When we are talking about a rhythm over there, perhaps there's a very important sense of balance. But do we really search about it consciously? Do we really look for that in terms of a online platform? There could be other modes. I just picked up Google, but we could look at other open source data in terms of social media, or even Insta hashtags and things like that. There it could lead to a new string of research. But just to give an idea, what's happening over here. So we see that this is the last 5 years. The pattern is again more or less same for the bar graph, and this is last 12 months that we see. And we see that movement is important, what we just talked about. Movement and then balance and harmony is kind of picked up in recent times. So in terms of design association, we have this movement and balance is kind of high, and harmony is low. And on the other hand, when we are looking at rhythm association, the movement and harmony is high, whereas proportion is low. So again, we see that somewhere harmony is low, whereas harmony is high when we associate rhythm. So it's acting very differently. It's acting very diagonally or diametrical. So now, out of all of these studies, we find that there are three aspects to it. If you look at the elements and principles of design and the rhythm together, we see that these three aspects are coming out to be important in for us to look at or deep dive the movement, harmony, and texture. So which is, as we understand from experience also, that definitely movement and harmony is important factor which relates to rhythm. But texture is something very, very interesting that has paved its way when we are talking of design in terms of visual design, or in terms of tangible, physical object design, in terms of, if we can tell it that way. And here you can see the graph on the top talks about all the categories. So here we see the yellow line is basically to do with the texture. And whereas when we look at visual art and design, we see that texture is very important. I mean, talking about all categories together, we kind of see that they have a trend which is kind of, they kind of go hand in hand, like there's not too much of a difference that we can do in terms of movement, harmony, and texture. But when we are actually segregating it to visual design and arts and visual design and things like that, we see that texture is making a difference, right? It's kind of scoring high compared to the movement and harmony. Needless to say, the association in terms of different forms. Here the form aspect, which we talked about, right? It starts taking a form. When we talked about the very definition of rhythm, we have a sense of form there. So the form is very, very important and that is making the difference. Maybe the form of visual design, art and visual design might be very different from the form of architecture or form of fashion design or form of animation design or audiovisual design. So that factor is playing a role over here, and needless to say, that has inherent textural qualities too. Now, when we look at these three things together, of course, one of the very important theory or one of the very important, what I would say, combination of all of these things is Textile Psychology. I think it defines or it rather what we talked about, the kind of analysis that we were talking about just now is very well depicted in Principles of Gestalt Psychology, where we actually look at the whole rather than looking at the parts, or it's not just about some of the parts, so it's together, the harmony and the movement and the texture, all of these come together to give us a sense of design, which is to give us a sense of that form and function. So they kind of come hand in hand and deliberates on this. So all the other elements that we talked about is also essential, is important. But if we narrow it down to rhythm, if we narrow it down to the discourse of rhythm, if we are looking at rhythm and if we are trying to analyze an object of design, then perhaps these three things.
Sorry, Professor Ghosh, if you can finish it in 1 or 2 minutes of time.
Yeah, sure. I'm towards the end. I was just about to say that. Please remind me of the time. I'm just towards the end. So, and then moving into that textural notion, which we see that it has got a high trend, and it's kind of a very, very important trending aspect in recent years. If we see that there is a increase in search or increase in importance. So texture has a sense of physicality, perhaps, which I was talking about. Our changing times perhaps is giving the impetus to this. Texture is such an element which has material and depth and sense of light and shade. It is responsive. It calls for an action-reaction kind of a thing. You look at something and you kind of have a sense of reaction towards it, or you may want to do something about it. It is, of course, 3D. It has a notion of 3D, and it has, it is the way forward in future, which is the haptics. Today we talk a lot about, visual communication and other forms of communication, but haptic interface is perhaps the way forward. And in that case, texture would play a very important role, and so is rhythm. So rhythm, texture, movement, and harmony go hand in hand. That's the whole inference from that. And then a little bit more into rhythm, because I was very curious about this very strange behavior of rhythm, which is induced by people. Of course, you and me are contributing to this particular trend. So I was looking at rhythm and design, rhythm and life, rhythm and people, and things like that. And I found that, it's rhythm and life has got a very strong connect, a notion, rhythm and people. And so is design. And more recent ones, the last 5 years or last 12 years, if we see that design is picking up also. So rhythm and design, rhythm and life, rhythm and people have got a importance, and rhythm and health also has got a factor in there, and rhythm and happiness also. And if you look at the geography also, if we see rhythm and design, has an important, like India, if you look at the geography as such, if you have a point of interest in India, we have a good, a balance between these three in terms of trend, the rhythm and design, rhythm and people, and rhythm and life, so that's kind of important. And this is the last slide. I mean, if we go about that, if we are looking at this, man is perhaps central to rhythm in design, from where we started, right? Like the very first slide talked about that man-made notion. So it's we who are, inducing rhythm. We are creating rhythm, and that rhythm is for people, and this is related to design. This is influencing design, and then design is for people, life, happiness, and well. So it's kind of a cyclic order where rhythm is to play a very, very important role in the coming years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Moina Ghosh, for this beautiful presentation. Now, this session is open for question or discussion, even if people can have some observations. So, Professor Ghosh, already there is one question. Let me to read it out for you. So Bruce is asking, could you please throw some light on how positive psychology helps to create design which will make users perform the actions or desired behaviors?
Can you read it?
Could you please throw some light on how positive psychology helps to create design which will make users perform the actions or desired behaviors?
Okay, if I have understood the question correctly, design, as I said, I think this is about the object design. Like we are talking about design as an object, and when we are looking at a design, I think we, as I showed you in the, just a second, I'm trying to figure out, how to stop sharing. Yeah, that's better now. So when we are talking about design as an object, as I was talking about, we judge a design, or we, even if it affects psychology, it is based on two aspects. One is the form and the other is the function. So when we look at a design, or it has got some impact on us, we are basically judging in terms of that form against that function. So this transaction keeps on happening. So we have to solve something. Maybe that water pot which I was showing you in the picture. So we think in terms of that we have to water a plant, and we cannot use that, right? So this form really does not help me achieve that. So perhaps that would not lead to a positive feeling about that product, or so of course it affects psychology, but the road towards affecting that psychology is based on the form and the function that we are looking at when we are analyzing that design.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh. Thank you for this beautiful presentation and the way you have actually dealt with this difficult notion of rhythm and design. I really appreciate you. Okay, so since we are actually running out of time, let me to go to our next speaker. So our next speaker is Professor Deepak Ghosh. I think he is present. Yeah.
Yes, he is present. Actually, he is present from Rakul Ghosh's.
Okay. Professor Deepak Ghosh, a university gold medalist and a PhD in high energy physics, is presently an emeritus professor at the Sir C.V. Raman Center for Physics and Music and director of Biren Roy Research Laboratory for Radioactivity and Earthquake Studies, Jadavpur University. Formerly, he was a professor and Dean of the Faculty of Science, Jadavpur University. Professor Ghosh has received several awards like the S.N. Bose Memorial Medal, C.V. Raman Award by the University Grant Commission, etc., in recognition of his in-depth research work. He was the principal investigator from India in projects with prestigious research institutes like CERN and Fermilab. He has over 500 publications in reputed international journals and several books to his credit. His research interests include nuclear and particle physics, nonlinear dynamics applied to biomedical problems, and neurocognition of music. He has also served as a reviewer for international journals like Physical Review Letters, Physica A, APL, etc. So Professor Ghosh will speak on the interdisciplinary exploration of rhythm and happiness. Over to you, Professor Ghosh.
So the master. What is? Thank you, Shomil, for your nice introduction. In fact, it is my pleasure to talk on a subject which is essence of Upanishad, because rhythm for happiness is the basic theme of Upanishad. I will begin with a famous poem of Rabindranath Tagore. Shanko, please show.
Is my screen visible, sir?
Yes.
Yes, it is visible, Shanko.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, I will read out in Bengali first of all. স্ফুলিঙ্গ তার পাখায় পেল ক্ষণকালের ছন্দ, উড়ে গিয়ে ফুরিয়ে গেল সেই তারই আনন্দ. In fact, in English, there are two terms. One is chanda, that is rhythm. One is ananda, that is bliss. These two are strongly correlated. So bliss and rhythm go side by side. This is the theme of Upanishad. At the same time, you can call that is a ancient wisdom. In today's time, a famous neurophysiologist, his statement is like this: there is no twisted thought without a twisted molecule, which shows that the ancient wisdom, which is philosophical rather, is nowadays has come in the frontiers of science. I will discuss some of the topic which I think philosophical and at the same time frontiers of science also tackle those things. Tagore was very much inspired by the Upanishad, and throughout his life he actually followed Upanishad to describe the reality as well as the world itself, including human mind and body, with the help of science, poem, prose, dramas, and everything. The most important aspect of the Upanishad, which is from the Untitled Upanishad, Ananda eva kholu imani bhutani jayante. I do not know very much Sanskrit, and that's why the main theme is translated in English. This is very, very important. From the transcendental delight, we came into existence. In delight, we grow and play our respective roles. And at the same time, we end our journey and enter the supreme delight. So I can simplify this, that by default, when we were born, we are nothing but a piece of happiness and due to rhythm. So this is part of our life. In a simple term also, when a baby is born, that's at the same time, rhythm is born as manifested in the heart. Next slide, Shankar. Now, there are many levels of rhythm. Conventionally, we give music the first thing. When you say rhythm, At the same time, we think there is a music. Then language, then art, then painting, then sculptures. This is one way of expressing rhythm. But at the same time, hardcore mathematics, hardcore physics, there is a rhythm also. My motivation comes from physics and mathematics, but at the same time, I do for the last 15 years the first one thing, music, language, story, all these things. Because I think my experience as a practitioner of hard science for last 50 years has enriched me to tackle the so-called art or humanity with the help of those tools. In short, I can say that I practiced art of science for 50 years. Now I practice science of art for 10 years. You perhaps identified that both group A and B, that means those who are painters, sculptors, or story writer, or say simply a handicraft designer, they use some figures, but some abstract figures. At the same time, if you consider the scientists, hardcore scientists like particle physicists, mathematicians, they also use abstract symbols. You see, in the left-hand side, this is just a happening in high energy, super high energy collisions. If there are two protons, subatomic particles, they collide each other, they break into debris in thousands in numbers, but their picture is like this. There is an inherent symmetry. Rather, I should say that the drawing above does not show any apparent symmetry, but the drawing below, it is a picture of particle collision, clearly shows the symmetry. On the right hand side, a mathematical formula, complicated mathematical terms, complicated mathematical symbols. We are not in a position to assess the rhythm of this thing, but there is a rhythm. My objective will be primarily how to correlate these two things. So we begin with the basic conception of rhythm and basic conception of happiness. Next slide. Rhythm is manifested as beauty, aesthetics, consciousness, and reality. These are the four terms, I should say, the main terms related to feeling of rhythm. Now, consciousness usually we take for granted, but time has come and serious, brilliant physicists have come up with mathematical hard sciences to deal consciousness, of course, with quantum mechanics. Next. This is the picture where we live, from micro to macro. We are going upward, that is, from a particular city to the country, to the world at a whole, then the galaxies, solar system, then the galaxies.
think you can stop the video. Sir is asking for that.
So if we sum up, the whole thing boils down to from micro to macro. It is not a correct word because this is femto to light years, because quarks are the dimension of femtometers. So from quarks, the tiniest possible elementary particle, to the total cosmic wave, you can think nothing but millions of atoms and dots and nothing else. So ourselves, the human mind, human body, human brain are responsible to decipher the two things, this femtospace as well as the cosmic space. So if we think deeply, really those particles, those cosmic waves exist, or these are construct of our mind. So nowadays, for last 20 years, people are bothering about mind over matter. In fact, I do not know whether rhythm is really real. This is a construct of mind. So I will say something about mind over matter. Next slide. Because if you see, in our school classes, we show like this. A ball is moving from left to right. Then we resolve into two components, x, y, or x or momentum. But is this true? The ball divides itself and there are two components? Not at all. This division is in our mind. Or similarly, in case of Bohr's theory, this is very, very important because it's a fundamental of quantum physics. In Bohr's theory, we have pictured two things, that there are many shells of many levels of electrons. An electron jumps from a higher level to a lower level, and we get different colors of light and other frequencies. Is this true? Not at all. These levels are our levels of mind. This is the construct of our mind. Because a simple thing, suppose an electron jumps from a particular level to another level. Is this continuous? How it jumps? No question of jumping. This is a quantum leap. This is an ad hoc idea. Maybe true, may not be true. But this picture is very successful. And due to this success, we assume this is true. We should remind everyone this is not actually the reality. We do not know what is the reality. This is a way. You can sequence, if you have green color, there is a particular wavelength, particular frequency, particular rhythm. So that rhythm was created by the jumping of the electron. How the rhythm was created? We never question, not in school class, not in postgraduate class, not in our research. Next. If you simply direct your finger to a baby, as the distance decreases automatically without a connection, our eyes will be closed. Why? We do not know. There is no strain. There is nothing. Despite of 200 years of brain research, we do not know how do we recognize spaces. Why do we laugh? Why do we cry? Why do we drink? Why do we enjoy art? Why do we enjoy mathematics? Why do we enjoy music? Next. And finally, who am I? What happens after? Does my mind arise exclusively from neurons in my brain? And if so, what scope is there for free will? These 4 points were in a sense philosophical. People used to ignore this thing. But time has come. The brilliant scientists all over the world are doing research on these 4 topics. Who am I? That is consciousness. What happens after death? There are numerous experiments of near-death situations. Does my mind come from the neuron? Neuroscientists are doing their level best to capture all informations of neurons. And then finally, what is free will? Mind-body interaction, the field of psychoneuroimmunology has witnessed an explosion of empirical finding during the last 2 decades. I emphasize this point. Why? Because for the last 2 years, we have been suffering from the pandemic. To be frank enough, the science has failed to do something except in creating some vaccines. Because I am surprised to see that in our seminar on rhythm, there is no contribution from medical persons. With emphasis, I would like to mention that miracles have been done in medicine considering symmetry. There are chiral drugs. Most of the drugs, as for example, pantoprazole, all of us take PAN 40, all of us take psychological drugs, all of us take levofloxacin antibiotic. They are chiral medicine. In a sense, there are mirror molecules. And those mirror molecules has done magic to our life. There should be discussed that the rhythm is essential in case of molecules and music. And in the same level, the music has the power to cure those diseases, because those diseases are being cured with the help of molecules. They have a symmetry, they have a chirality, they have a, what should I say, a rhythm. Rhythm is very loose term in any way. Next. In some types of autoimmune disease, which involve particular substance of white blood cells, are due to stress, as you know. The literature documents the efficacy of talk therapy intervention in altering immune system parameters. Why I am giving emphasis? In this time, the talk, the interaction, simply talking, can do miracle instead of giving so much of medicines. Because in talk there is a rhythm, and that rhythm is comparable to chiral medicine. The literature also documents other similar affairs. The impact of chronic stress of poverty on immune system functions. My point is, academically or philosophically we may do many things, but in real life, new areas, new inventions are required, which are in a sense not taken seriously in the realm of science. Now, EEG activity in our brain show many things, but the main thing is this: there is a typical types of rhythm occurring among the neurons. This typical type of rhythm can be modified, can be synchronized by using music. Next. This topic is the topic of the day for most of the brilliant physicists and mathematicians. Philosophers are already there, but the consciousness can be tackled mathematically or from physics standpoint, this is a challenge of frontiers of scientists. More than 100 years ago, British mathematician and physicist James Jeans made one remark, very, very important. We never care this, but serious person, serious worker doing hard science, they care this. When you view ourselves in space and time, our consciousness are obviously the separate individuals of a particular picture. But when you pass beyond space and time, they may perhaps form ingredients of a single continuous stream of light. As it is with light and electricity, so may be with light. The phenomena may be separate individuals carrying on existence in space and time, while in deeper reality, beyond space and time, we may all be members of one body. This is the theme of Upanishad, that the universal consciousness and individual consciousness. But James Jeans is a famous physicist. His looking at things is completely magical. As with light and electricity, so may be with light. The phenomena may be separate individuals carrying on existence in space and time. Really, we do not know what is space and time. I will come. While in deeper reality, beyond space and time, there is something. And there, we may all be members of one body. Very much important. And this should be researched theoretically. Man is capable of seeing the nothingness from which he emerges and the infinity in which he is engulfed. I repeat, man is capable of seeing the nothingness from which he emerges and the infinity in which he is engulfed. I will elaborate a bit. Next. In Buddhist philosophy, they start with a concept Shunya. Shunya is the ultimate cause of everything. Every name and forms begins in Shunya, thrives in Shunya, and ends in Shunya. Just like life begins with bliss or delight, thrives in delight, and ends in delight. All names and forms have their origin in Shunya. And so long they receive nourishment from Shunya, they survive. And no sooner the nourishment is withdrawn, they die out. Shunya is thus the vast cosmic light ocean from which all names and forms derive their origin, nourishment, and end. Next. This is very, very important. The Buddhist practitioners formulated that all letters, words, and sentences with or even without meaning are nothing but shunya. In essential, that is to say, they are condensation of shunya, bristling with constant power of a higher degree. Letter, words, and sentences have a certain rate of vibration. This I want to emphasize. Letters, words, and sentences have a
Professor, you are muted, please.
The sir has been muted. Ratul, please check. Sir? I think he cannot.
Professor, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
I think he's not been able to hear us. Just a minute.
And these things synchronize. We always try to synchronize our rhythm to rhythm coming from different sources. Next. The vacuum of space. We are discussing about shunya. In science, what is the status? Most of us do not know. The vacuum of space comes to us all. Atom consists of 99 point so many nines empty space. That means everything from the chair you are sitting on or the computer you are staring at, even yourself are only 0.10, 0.00000001% there. So, as such, matter does not define space. Space defines matter. Next. Matter is just a perceptual division of the vacuum itself. Matter does inform space. Reality creates us. The vacuum creates us, but we inform the vacuum. We are interacting with the structure of the vacuum over and over again in a fundamental way. All the electrons and protons in the atoms that make up in bodies are constantly interacting with the vacuum like game of hide and seek, appearing and disappearing over and over again. And this is reality. And other descriptions of atoms and all these things just for the sake of simplicity. Consciousness should simply be taken for granted the way space, time, and mass in physics. That is, I mean, we think we know space, we think we know time, we think we know mass, but we take consciousness as something to be granted. Not at all. Both space, time, mass, and consciousness we have taken for granted. We do not really know what they are. Next. With conscious observation, however, the infinite wave function collapses into a finite objective reality, giving us perceivable objects. Consciousness is the medium by which reality as we know it exists. I explain it. When I see a body, when I have a thought, in a deep sense, there is the consciousness probability that collapses just like in quantum mechanics. Yeah.
Professor Bose, Somir here. So may I request you to finish your talk in 2 minutes because we have also our...
Sure. Okay. Now the new ideas have emerged where it is advocated that is consciousness that is primary and matter secondary. Consciousness is epigenetic, triggering biological expression. So we think in that way. Consciousness, then DNA, then RNA, then protein. Next slide. And go to the end. Go to end. Now this is a very important thing that since time is very short, actually 30 minutes is very, what should I say? This lecture requires at least 3 hours. Anyway, the main point, there is consciousness, there is symmetry, and these two things make beauty, make rhythm, and all other things. I should close my lecture with one slide of how symmetry occurs in different levels. In any world, micro world or macro world, we are not in a position to decipher symmetry. But if you go down and down and down, or if you go up and up and up, there is always a symmetry going on. This will be shown by a picture which is called Mandelbrot set. that is self-similarity in every sphere of life. Please start. With our perception, we are not in a position to see the hidden symmetry. The hidden symmetry, if you zoom, you will see that symmetry goes on downward, symmetry goes on upward. But one has to see mathematically. Nowadays, the mathematical tools are there where you can identify exactly quantitatively where and how and what is the quantification of amount of symmetry. So symmetry is the root of all things, root of beauty, root of truth in physics, in chemistry, in mathematics, in medicine, in art and science. To sum up, symmetry, beauty are two manifestations of rhythm. And I'm not sure, I was repeating, that whether the rhythm is really there or this is an illusion. Just like everything is an illusion unless we can have some proper scientific assessment tools. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh, for this stimulating lecture. So may I now request the participants, if you have any questions or any observations, you can ask, or you can even type it here in the message box. Okay, so if there is no question, then definitely I have one question. Sir, so you have told that everything, including our human body, or say, for example, the chair, table, stones, all are made up of the same type of matter or the molecules. Okay. So now, if this is the case, then why only the humans who can actually appreciate or appreciate the concept of rhythm? Why is it so? Why it is not the case that a dog can also appreciate the rhythm, or a tree can also appreciate the rhythm?
This is a very important question. Time is very short. The answer is, with the evolution process, somehow I cannot say that dog has no appreciation. I cannot say a rat has no appreciation. But our lives depend on rat because all medicines are tried with rat, isn't it? So the interaction pattern, they do not know, they don't appreciate, this is not true. But the level of consciousness with which we are privileged due to evolution process, and why this is so, nobody knows. This is our venture to know why humans are programmed in this way, that the supernatural creation of the creator may be appreciated with the human only. And there is such as going on, whether other animals, what is their level of appreciation? What is you did not mention the plants. Plants have appreciation. Plants have emotion. In some cases, more emotion than us. This we forget. It is not true that plant cannot calculate. I can calculate, you can calculate. Plant can also calculate. There are examples. That difference of calculation they cannot write, they cannot express. But they calculate, certainly they calculate. But we have to limit our research to human being. And most importantly and most dangerously, we research for the success of medicine not on human body, but on rat. This is the main thing. We are also taken for granted everything. We never question. We should question ourselves why this is so. On the other hand, this is not true. Enough research is being done, and today also enough research is there. We are not aware of it. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you, Professor Ghosh. Since we are running out of time, so let me to now conclude this session. So now the session is over to Urchi or to Shankar. Yeah.
Thank you very much for giving me a scope
I think, Samdu sir, you are the senior most person present here. You can thank our speakers for this session.
Thank you, Professor, for this one. I wish we had more time. Thank you for this wonderful insight into what the scientists today ask about what Vedantas have been talking for thousands of years on consciousness, who I am, and all that. Thank you so much for enlightening us and telling us that science is now more serious about finding the very meaning of what sunyata is all about. We are really grateful for you being here, and we look forward to listening more and learning from you on this very topic. And we are sorry we couldn't allot more time, so forgive us, and a lot of our gratitude for all that you have done for us. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much.
With all of your permission, then we are closing this session. We will proceed to the next session where our very own Samdu sir will be moderating. So we have Kimchi Moyer with us, who will be conducting the workshop. So thank you, sir. Thank you, Deepak sir, and thank you, Samdu sir, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shomita, for moderating the earlier session. Let's proceed to the next one, I think. Samdu sir, you all know Samdu sir already, and he is visiting faculty at our Reiki Center, and he will be moderating this session for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Orchi. Thank you so much. It's definitely a great pleasure and an honor for me to see our friend of the Reiki Center, I would say, Kimchi Moyer, who is an expert in acupuncture, actually. But let me read out her short bio, very short bio. Kimchi Moyer is now, of course, in the US at the moment, is a founder of Resopathy Institute. She is internationally recognized as one of the world's top bioenergetic practitioners in the field of anti-aging and wellness. Widely considered an expert in health detective, Kimchi uses resonance and feedback technologies to communicate with the body to identify root causes of various health issues and discover the tools that aid the body in restoring itself to optimum health. Her methodology, coined Resopathy for its basis in resonance technology, enables her to excel at synergistically combining diet with supplements and other support to achieve the best outcomes in shortest time possible. Following her outstanding record of success, Kimchi has been invited to lecture at medical conferences worldwide on various topics with talks including and decoding biological systems by resonance and biofeedback technology. In 2017, she made her first trip to Bhutan to learn about gross national happiness and produced her first video, Bhutan Kingdom of Happiness. Kimchi was subsequently invited to become the Gross National Happiness Center Bhutan ambassador to the US and conducted the first GNS emissary program for the Kingdom of Bhutan in 2018. Kimchi will share with us today a few case studies to illustrate the rhythms of happiness discovered via Resopathy method. So the workshop is on the Resopathy, the rhythms of happiness. Let's hear Kimchi, and you will be surprised to find out something that we have never thought about. We'll talk about it, but now I give the floor to you, my dear friend. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Samdu Shetri. I'm very honored to be here. And let me just get my presentation started here. I feel that in order to understand the rhythm of happiness, I feel it's also very necessary to understand the rhythm of wellness. To find the rhythmic pulse of health and of wellness, what I feel that what could be better than to ask our body directly what it wants, what it needs to keep it happy. So imagine having the ability to communicate directly with the body. Imagine having the technology to access this intelligent network, absolutely sacred, absolutely intelligent. Imagine having the ability to converse with the intelligence of the organism. So through the lens of resopathy, which is a term that I coined, this workshop introduces the concept that the body is a superior technology and that not only it encompasses a deep wisdom from nature, but also contains solutions for self-healing, self-repair mechanism in order for it to operate and function at optimum level. And that this sacred rhythm of wellness could be understood. It is there for us to understand. It is there for us to access and to guide us, to help it repair itself, only if we have the technology to access it. My view that this is only one angle. We have been accessed the body network through understand the blood, the saliva, the urine, different mechanism. So this is only one way. It's not the only way, but this is one way, is to understand the body intelligence and be able to converse with it through the electrical field. So with your permission, Samdu, may I start the presentation?
So you're muted.
Yeah.
I would like to open the presentation with my favorite person, Nicola Tesla. This is one of the favorite quotes that helped guide me through this field of measuring.
You have to share your screen.
Share. I'm sorry. I did not put share. So 1 second. Now, could you see?
No.
Share not yet. Here it is.
Yeah, coming, yes.
Yeah. Okay, let me.
If you can make it.
Okay, now I can go into here and play.
Yes.
That good? Yes?
Yes, great.
That works? Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. This is my favorite quote from Nicola Tesla. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. Another one from him that I would like to introduce as well. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So, as I mentioned before, what if we have a technology to communicate with the body? What if we have a technology to be able to listen to the body and hear what it wants, what it needs? What if we have a way to access this absolutely sacred and intelligent network? So a little background to share with you before I go into case studies as well as the ways how do I access this network and how do I solve different challenging health issues. I started out studying acupuncture and oriental medicine and begin to learn that it's channel of energy that going through the body and manifest itself. Here, in 1991, I got introduced to German biological medicine. And German biological medicine is a field that encompasses German homeopathy, basic Western science. It also include traditional Chinese medicine and biophysical information therapy. So this is the German Vega firm in the Black Forest in Germany, where I have spent many years coming here to study the method that I coined the term resopathy today. You can see that it is a huge firm. It is the second largest company in Europe that produce sensors and devices to measure different things. The medical department was built here in the very last part right here. And so over here, this is where in 1991, I got the privilege to be trained and to be mentor and also to study under different doctors and physicists and biophysicists. So what is this German Vega firm is about? Vega Trichhaber is a company that develop and manufacture sensors for the measurement of level, point level, and pressure, as well as equipment, and produce software for integration into process control. It produced a measurement technology for highest reliability in every application. And when I say highest reliability, this is where I had so much respect for the German. Before this, I was an acupuncturist. I was studying the body by observing the pose, the tongue, the face. I even study how to read fingers and so on. But when I get to Germany, they introduced the concept of energy flowing through the body, but also they have device to measure the body electrical field, to measure the body conductivity. And so that got my attention, and that became my focus the last 30 years. And I made it a mission to use the technology to understand the body. I still use a pose at the time. I still look at the face, but I use technology to really understand the deeper what's going on inside the body and connect them together. So here in Germany at Vega firm, I got the privilege to meet a few great minds. Or biophysicists and doctors. And one of them is Dr. Wolfgang Ludwig. Dr. Ludwig is the biophysicist that introduced me to the concept of Schumann resonance, and that we human beings, we swim in all these electromagnetic frequencies, from solar frequencies to geomagnetic frequencies, and that the earth generates certain resonance that's best for human to be in, and that is called Schumann frequencies. I also got introduced to the work of Professor Fritz Popp, and probably some of you know him. Dr. Fritz Popp is no longer here with us, and Dr. Ludwig, neither is Dr. Ludwig. So Professor Popp is someone that introduced the concept that the body generates biophotons, that the body is made of light, and you could see these light emit from the body. If you sit in a dark chamber, you would see little light, little photon beginning to emit from the body itself. And that he discovered that the real human itself has an energetic structure. And that every human cell has its own frequency, has its own vibration, and that it has an ideal resonance and frequency of vibration. One of the person that I was very much in a mentor and stay and follow throughout the years is Dr. Bodo Kohler. Dr. Bodo Kohler is a medical doctor. He's an cardiologist. He's into sport medicine, but he's also was nicknamed the Pope of Energy Medicine. So Dr. Bodo Kohler is someone that I have followed for many years and studied under him. So here I would like to share a few concepts. In classical mechanics, we understand that the universe is energy and matter. In quantum mechanics, we understand that the universe is made up of energy/matter. And in biophysical mechanics, living system is energy/matter and information. Let me see. You can see the whole. Let me see. You can see the whole slide here very well. Yeah, is that correct? Okay.
Yes, we see the slide.
Okay. Let me see if I can. There it is. Reality consists of fields, of energy, of vibration. All living systems are controlled by a bioelectronic energy/information to which all material processes are subordinate. In other words, we are much more energy than material. From the work of Dr. Bodo Kohler, he mentioned to us many times that we are 1 billion times more energy than material. In the organism, in our body, chemical processes are actual bioinformational process. Molecules are formed from atoms when they start to exchange the electrons. So already we are in the energetic process, and already we are in quantum physics. And that no metabolic reaction in the body can take place without the transfer of the relevant information. This is another quote from Professor Hans Duhr, who is the student of Heisenberg, and you probably have heard of the Heisenberg Principle. Below the level of elementary parts, matter exists only as a wave, or does not exist. So again, we are much more energy than material. And that matter consists of three things: mass, energy, and information. Very important, information. And that matter obeys superordinate energetic interaction forces, and that the form and structure of matter depend directly on these forces. And this is from Dr. Rubia, who was then head of CERN Geneva and got the Nobel Prize back in 1984. So think of it, in Chinese medicine, what do we say? One of the Chinese medicine principle, blood follows qi, right? All interaction, all process in the body happen not just on the physical matter level, but it obeys the superordinate energetic forces above that. And that the form and structure of all matter depend on these forces. So to understand wellness, we must understand what is disease or dis-ease. From the viewpoint of the German functional medicine and German biological medicine, what is disease? Disease is a loss of regulation, is a loss of ability to regulate. A disease is a disorder of a dynamic process of regulation which involves the entire organism. So permanently disrupted regulation is viewed as a root cause of many diseases, of all kinds of systemic illnesses. And that this systemic illness is often connected to the environmental pollution, whether that environmental pollution is internal or external.
हाँ वो प्रणाम. देखिए पता नहीं ज्वाइनिंग के लिए है, देखिए कब तक हो रहा है ज्वाइनिंग के लिए.
Sorry.
So to understand regulation, I would like to explain the concept of regulation. So what is regulation? Reaction is regulation. And regulation is adaptation, and the ability to regulate is a key to health. For example, if I'm going to throw a ball at you, I expect you to react. I expect you to move. Depends on how you move. If you can dodge the ball, that's a good reaction. But if you start to fall down, that's a negative reaction. Or if you just stand there and completely take the ball, that's called a rigid regulation. And I'm going to give you a few examples. So again, as we go through life, it's important to be able to understand that the key to health is to regulate. The key to health is to react, to adapt. And there's certain range, within certain range, it is considered healthy, a healthy reaction. So there are different types of regulation. There's positive regulation. Like I mentioned, if I throw a ball at you, you can dodge it. So you're flexible. There could be negative regulation where you just fall down. A rigid regulation means you just stand there and taking the ball, which is not good. Hyper-regulation, you could totally overreact. If I just say, I like your pink shirt, and suddenly you jump and get mad at me, that's called a hyper-regulation. Or hyper-regulation is under-regulation, very, very, very low energy to react to. So this is just some example visual so that you could understand. This is based on the technology we call computer segmental electrograph, where we lay the body down, we apply 13 hertz current via different segment of the body. It divides the body into a different segment. Here we have the head, left and right. Here we have the chest, left and right. Here we have the abdomen, left and right. And here we have the pelvis, left and right. So it challenges the body 5 different times. Every time it comes in, it gives you a little stronger current. So when we start to give you a little bit of energy and see how you react. And every time we increase more current, you're able to adapt. This is called positive regulation. So this is good. This is all good regulation throughout a segment of the body. It's a positive regulation. And this is what health look like. This is another case. You can see that here. This is a negative regulation. The person react highly and start to drop. That's called a negative regulation. In this segment, for example, we see the first 4 segments. Everything regulates positively. And this is actually a picture of a doctor that I work with. And he comes in and he say, I take good care of myself, but I just have this one issue I cannot solve. So when you look into the abdomen, you can see the regulation begins a little bit more rigid, but look at in the left pelvis, a straight line right here. That's a perfect picture of rigid regulation. And just right there, and I say, you have something going on in your left pelvis here. And he say, Kimchi, all my life, this is exactly what's going on. This area is just not working. He has a lot of issue with that throughout his adulthood. So that's a perfect picture of rigid regulation. And this one is a hyperregulation. This person has a lot of allergy. You can see that the very first bar, he really jumped very high. This is extremely sensitive organism. He has severe allergy. It reacts to just about everything. That's a good picture of hyperregulation. And another picture here is hyporegulation, hardly any action at all going on in the pelvis area. And to quote Dr. Fritz Albert Popp again, so armed with all this knowledge, so I begin to focus on the question: what if I can access this intelligent network? What if I can contact the body and converse with its intelligence, the intelligence of the organism? So knowing that every human cell has an ideal resonant frequency of vibration, so what if I can introduce different substances into circuit with the body and see what the feedback is? So what is resonance? Resonance happen when two or more substances have similar or the same frequency. Again, a resonance happen when two or more substances have similar or the same frequency. And that could be your body and your body with another substance. And that substance could be food, that substance could be a homeopathic remedy, that substance could be a drug, that substance could be a gemstone, for example. So when two or more substances have similar or the same frequency, it would go into resonance. So I coined the word resopathy. Reso is from the word resonance itself. I spent the last 30 years decoding the language of the body and trying to understand the body. So I came up with the protocol to help guide me how to access this intelligent network and how to solve the different issue. So resopathy is a health modality using both resonance and advanced biofeedback technologies to gather biological data by measuring the body's natural electrical field. So again, it's a modality that uses both resonance and biofeedback in order to gather biological data. And I would go into that a little bit more and be happy to answer any question you may have. So this is the device from the Vega firm in Germany. The technology, the device itself is called the BioExpert. And here you can see me. I'm here measuring the body electrical field. You can measure I measure a point, and that point is located in either fingers or toes. And why fingers or toes? Because we have more sweat glands at the fingers or toes, so it's more conductive. So as long as I can access the conductivity of a point on the body, I can read the body. And you can see the device here. Here is a meter, is an ohm meter that allows me to see how conductive the body is. Is that conductive or is that resistant? And here you have a little tray here where I can insert different remedies in here and then remeasure. When I add in a substance, does it cause the body to become more conductive, or does it cause the body to resist against that? And that resistance or conductivity could be felt when I measure. And that's the skill set that I developed over the last 30 years. And you can see there are different substances here. We could measure basically any substance and put into the circuit with the body and see how does it react. In the device itself, there are also information that's been programmed in here. There's a few thousand pieces of information that allow you to access and ask different questions. For example, in what organs and what food and the state of the immunity and so on and so on. So this is the technology that I use for the last 30 years. Currently, the company is owned by VegaMed in Essen, Germany, and the device is now called Test Expert. For those of you who are interested in the technology, it is now called the Test Expert, owned by VegaMed in Essen. At this point, I'd like to ask Samdu, or should I stop for question before I move on into case studies?
I think you could move on to case studies, and then we would, I don't know how long it will take. Let's keep some time for question answer. But just before you begin, Kimchi, I would like to be really grateful that you woke up very early to honor us this. And I know you were here in IIT Kharagpur. You have tasted on many of us, including the director, previous director. And your science is kind of magic for us. And I know when you came to Bhutan, a soldier from the royal family came and was brought by the indigenous doctor and said that he has tried allopathy, homeopathy, all kinds of medication, but he is constantly in fever for last 2 years. And you did magic just by tasting him through your electrical field, and you prescribed something. You also shared some doses of your supplements, and the following 2 days later, he ran back to you saying, my fever is gone. 2 years long fever. So I really am mesmerized by what you do. I was, in fact, in 2016-17, I was at Miami for the World Happiness Summit, where I happened to meet you, and finally you did taste on me. And more so, I'm really surprised that some time ago you did a distant taste for me. This was even more interesting because you're not touching me, but just looking at me, you're able to communicate with my body energy and tell me what was wrong, and you exactly found what was wrong with me. So if you can, talk about your case studies, and also tell us about how could you really do at a distance the same that you do physically when someone is present in front of you. So first, let's start with your case studies. Thank you.
Thank you, Samdu. That is to talk about distant remote testing is definitely another level of testing that I'm still trying to understand it myself, but somehow it works. So it is for us, and it is for all of us out there. And I definitely would need help from different physicists and the professor who taught before me. To understand the consciousness behind that mechanism. What's really going on in the field? I'm like the operator. I'm not to be really clear, I'm not a doctor here. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a quantum physicist or a chemist in any way. I am someone who spends the time just to make measurement and recording every day. And by making these measurements in details and spend the time with it and asking every question possible and recording the data, it allows me to understand the pattern, the pattern of the body, how it functions, how it works. And I start to venture deeper and deeper, asking different questions and see the feedback, see what it comes back with. And I just systemically categorize them and record them so I can understand what's going on. But the field is wide open for us to explore. Like I say, I may know how to drive a car, and I drive the car well, but I don't know. If you ask me to open up the hood and look at the engine and explain how each piston works, I will not be able to explain that, but I just know how to drive. So the same way, I know how to operate this method really well. Very comfortably, I can answer questions about how it operates. But the question to really explaining what's really going on and how we are all interconnected through the field is there for us to explore. So to get back into this, my question is, okay, I can measure the body electrical field and get information, but would it translate into result? Would it give me the result it needs? Because a lot of it is in theory. And it's great. Some theories are just great, but is that practical? Can I use it? Can I apply it? Can I help solve problems? Can I make people feel better? And this is where my focus is. I'm a very practical person. Astrologically, they told me that I'm a Virgo. I have many Virgo in my chart, so that means I'm very earthy. I'm very practical, and that means I'm very meticulous. And it's a good thing that I put this meticulous skill to use to understand the body, because otherwise I would drive my partner or my husband or anyone crazy with all the details that I have in my head. So it's at least I put it to good use here. So let's move on. So to really to help a person feel better, to understand this rhythm of wellness that the body has, how do we get there? So I use a method. I use reciprocity to help me solve the puzzle by asking, some certain questions. And so first, I want to know, like, okay, all right, what's going on? What's going on in the body? How bad is the situation? And where is it located? And what caused it? Why is it happening? So I feel that if I can begin to answer in detail and with accuracy to these basic questions and hovering around it, I pretty much can solve the issue most of the time in the shortest time possible. So I would like to share just a few case studies, few simple case studies that I picked throughout the years to illustrate how an issue could be solved, even though we may not know all the details of it. I do not know the blood work. I do not have the lab here. I'm just here with the device measuring conductivity and ask different questions. I have performed at this point over 2,000 cases over the last 30 years. Each case varies. Some people I just spend like an hour. Some people I spend a day or 2 days. Every case varies. Every case is different, depends on the severity of each case. So in this case, the mother brought this baby to me. And you can see that he just turned 1 year old. He was born on February 26, 2008. And he came in exactly a year later. Why? The mom came in and brought this baby to me and say, he just doesn't have any teeth. This is 1 year old and still no teeth came out. And, he's a baby that been raised at home, only eat organic food. She made all the food. And he so far has received no childhood vaccination up to that point. He hasn't been on any medication. He's good. He's healthy. He just doesn't grow any teeth. So to think of it, right? I'm here. I'm not a dentist, and I never dealt with this problem before. And I say, okay, let's take a look and see what the body say. So I have certain protocol, and I'm just showing here with you, just quickly so that you can see what some concept. But as the protocol that I go through to ask the body, like I mentioned before, like what's going on? Where is it? What's happening? Why is it happening? For what reason? Right? So some of them, they are not all here, but some of them, for the purpose of illustration and to make it easy to see, I would ask, for example, does he have a major intoxication? A major intoxication means a substantial amount of toxicity in the body. Does it have that? If so, where is it? What causes it? And what is the main remedy for it? So you can see he's a baby. He's 1 year old. He doesn't have a lot of issue. Doesn't have any major intoxication. He doesn't have any acquired intoxication. But when we get to intox 3, inherited intoxication, I got a yes. So the body feedback, conductivity start to rise. Yes. Okay. So I asked then, where is it? Is that in the heart, the liver, the pancreas? And I just go through systemically, and in the head, in the chest, in the abdomen, in the pelvis. So when I get to the kidney, I get a yes on the kidney. I say, okay, kidney, all right. Now we have 2 kidney, left and right. So I say, okay, which one? I got left kidney, very clearly, left kidney. I say, wow, interesting. And then the next question I'm forced to ask, okay, if it's so, what caused it? Is that bacterial? Is that viral? Is that mold? Is that yeast? Is that, so I just go through the protocol and see what it resonates with. Again, remember that the technology is about resonance and biofeedback. I introduce a substance into the circuit with the body, and let's see what it resonates with, what the feedback is. And when it resonates, the current start to shift. So again, I am measuring the electrical current of the body to see if it's either conductive or resistance. When I introduce a substance, it starts to give me a feedback. And then I record the data. And as I record the data, I keep connecting these dots together to see what connect with the what. Is A has relationship with B, relationship with C. So in this case, left kidney come up as I go through different points. Is that bacterial, viral, mold, yeast, deficiency, and so on. Mercury intoxication came up. I say, mercury intoxication. Okay, so I remember the kid did not receive any kind of vaccination, so it cannot come from the vaccination, for example. If people talk about there's mercury in the vaccine, for example, it cannot be from there. He's at home, he eats everything organic. Where can it come from? So in this case, say inherited. That means he must get it somehow from the mother. All right. So I say, okay, if it's so, what remedy would correspond to this? So I begin to pull out my test set of different things to help mercury detox. We have from DMSA, we have calcium EDTA, we have zeolite, we have different things to help detox the body. And of course, none of it would check because this is a baby. The baby does not want anything very strong. It's only one thing that resonates and that matches the picture is a foot patch called a body detox patch. Maybe some of you know these foot patches we attach to the foot, and at night you attach to it, and in the morning when you peel it off, it will become very dark, right? So I have that in the office. So I put it onto the device and remeasure the current, and sure, there's a resonance with it. It matches the left kidney. Say, okay, all right. So I start to and I usually put that on each foot, right? For adult, one on each foot. In this case, I just get the information that only one patch on the left foot only. Again, it matches the left kidney. Okay. Then usually the normal recommendation is I have people attach the foot patch every day. Most of the time, every day, you just put on. It's non-harmful. You just put it on. In the morning, you peel it off. It's completely dark, and you do it until it no longer turns black or dark. It becomes more lighter over time. So in this case, the information I get that the baby only wants one patch once a week, not every day, once a week, on the left foot only. So I talked to the mom. I say, you know what? I just get that there is a situation with the left kidney here that has some type of mercury intoxication, and that the top patch matches, and that he wants to have it on his left foot once a week. And I asked the mom, do you have like any mercury amalgam in your mouth? Did your teeth have fillings? And she opened my mouth for me. And when I look at her mouth was filled with different types of filling that with mercury amalgam. And she had it for years, and she had it throughout when she was pregnant. And then she said, well, Kimchi, what's interesting is that when I was pregnant, they did a sonogram on him because they found that his left kidney was enlarged, and they did not know why. They just say, well, that happened in some babies, in some kid. So they just left it at that. It's not, his left kidney was enlarged. So that was right there. It was very fascinating for me to hear that information. So let's see the result, what happened when we put that foot patch on the left foot for the baby. I asked her, look, why don't you do this one patch on the left foot once a week for 4 weeks only, and then come back and see what's next. Here's a result. 2 weeks later, she came back and she called me. She said, Kimchi, all the teeth came out. So I was like, wow, it's not even 4 weeks, 2 weeks. So remember when we see that ultrasound that show the baby has a enlarged left kidney, in Chinese medicine, we know that the kidney control the bones. The kidney control the bones and therefore the teeth. So what I take from this is that somehow the energetic pathway, the mercury that got through the placenta, or at least the energetic aspect of the mercury intoxication, has affected the kidney itself on the left and causing a blockage, so does not allow the teeth to erupt normally. So this is just one case to show that, again, I never have an experience with this before. I'm not a dentist. I don't know how to grow teeth, but simply by asking the body, and this is the result it gets very quickly, 2 weeks later. Moving on to another case. I picked this case because this was also very interesting as well. Again, here I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a gynecologist. I'm not an obstetrician. This woman come in and say, Kimchi, I'm 8 months pregnant and the baby is not turning. It's very possible that he will be born breech. I just need to know, is there anything we can do? She came in on that day and said that, look, I start to dilate and I start to have contraction, and with only 8 months pregnant. The due date is not until January 6th. So she is like a month early. And she said that since the baby is in the up position and not turning, the doctor wanted me to come in today to the hospital to do an ultrasound, and they want to plan for a C-section. She's not taking any kind of medication, and she's just very concerned and quite upset that she may have to do a C-section. So I say, okay, all right, let's just take a look and see what the body says. So this is another, again, I have many protocols that I go through, but this is just for the purpose of illustration. I just want to show you what the key points is. So again, I look to see how, where everything is at, where does the origin of the problem come from. The origin point to the adrenals, the uterus, and the cervix. Okay, that makes sense, uterus and cervix, because she's pregnant, but also the adrenals. And then I also ask, what are the most stressed organ? The most stressed organ also came up. The adrenals come up as most stressed. The uterus and the cervix also come up as most stressed. In this case, it's not the liver, not the pancreas, not the heart. It came up the same way. So then I asked the next question, what about where's the focus? What is the dominant focus? And they say adrenals. So think of it, the adrenal has to do with stress, right? So then as it did not point toward this is not a case due to bacterial, viral, yeast, candida, etc. It has nothing to do with the immune system, the energy here. So I look into it. It started to lead me into looking into her stress, her adrenal, her stress, and look into her psyche, her emotional state. So one of the ways for me to access the psyche or the emotional state is to use Bach flower remedies. Perhaps some of you know about Bach flower remedies. If not, Bach flower remedies developed by Dr. Edward Bach of England. He was an immunologist and spent the later years of his life to understand vibration and through flowers. And he discovered that there are 38 flowers. It's known today as 38 Bach flower remedies. He discovered there are 38 flowers that emit certain frequency that matches the human psyche. And when we take them, it helps balance our psyche, our emotional state. It may not solve the problem, but it helps put you in a different state of mind so you can see your issues. So to make the long story short, I pull out my Bach flower remedy test set here and go through different emotion. So among the 38 emotion, 3 of them came up for her. The first one is M. M has to do with the feeling of overwhelm. Feeling overwhelmed that it's too much going on. I don't know I can take this. Can I meet the demand? Can I meet the responsibility? It's a state of feeling completely overwhelmed. Holly is a very common emotion. It comes up for most of us. Holly shows different forms of vexation toward your fellow man. Holly shows that you're upset. Holly shows that you feel misunderstood and you feel unloved. And so that's Holly's very common emotion. The next one is vervain. Vervain show the state of emotion where the person feel very tense. She wants everything to be perfect and it's not going the way she is. So that's the state of vervain. The vervain people are very reliable. They want to please you. They want to make things right. They say they do something, they would do it. So it causes them a lot of tenseness in in their life. So when you look at the psyche, you can tell she's feeling overwhelmed with what's going on. She's very upset because things are not going the way she wanted to be. So I begin to put the remedy together for her and give her these Bach flower remedy. But look at the key remedies. What does the body want? Under most stress, we see that the body say the adrenal is the most stressed organ, and of course also the uterus and the cervix. Of course that makes sense because she's pregnant, but the adrenal, and I keep getting a pattern here, adrenal, the origin is also originated in the adrenal and the focus in the adrenal. So she's under a lot of stress and she is consuming a lot of her energy. So when I look into remedies, what remedy do you want? She say, her body reflect back through resonance and give me the feedback and say, I want ginseng, I want B12, I want, to give me more power. And I also want a remedy, a German remedy called Zincum valerianicum, that means de-stress me, make me calm. So that's what the body said. Give me power, make me calm, and give me some B12 along with that. And so let's look at the result. So the baby turned to the correct position by the time the mother reached the radiology department a few hours later. So she left me, went to the hospital to have the ultrasound done. And she said, by the time she get there, I gave her the remedy. Of course, she took it. By the time she get there a few hours later, the baby already turned. And since the baby turned, they cannot do anything. They say, all right, we have to cancel the surgery. Then she called me later on and tell me she did give birth on due date on January 5th, and that she went into the labor only for 1 to 1.5 hours. She said like under 2 hours. She said, Kimchi, it's like a drive-through birth. I came in, I just pop it out, and it's done. It was so easy. So this is just another case to illustrate why I am not an obstetrician and know how to, or a midwife and know how to turn the baby. This is only by asking the body, what's going on? How bad is the situation? Where is it? What can we do about it? What is it that you want? And the body begin to correct itself if we give it what it needs to do the job. Let me check on the time here. How am I doing on the time here?
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
Yes? Okay. So I have one more case study to present, and then after that we can open up in question and answer.
Yes.
So let me go to my last one. This case is a very interesting case because this person, he came in with his naturopathic doctor. So this naturopathic doctor is very famous. He gives a lot of lectures online, and he speaks at many conferences. So I know this must be a challenging case if he come with his doctor. And so his doctor told me, say, Kimchi, we done a lot for him. We done everything possible. We done IVs, everything, and he's on medication. But there's just this one issue we're not able to solve. Can you just take a look and see what's going on? So this gentleman, he's now 54 years old. He's an investor, private investor. He's now retired. He doesn't need to work anymore. He's just enjoying his life right now. And he has access to everything. He has access to all the best supplements in the world. And, whatever he wants, he has. So he done a lot, but that's just this one issue is that he had this severe daily head pain that they cannot solve. Like everything is good, but he just this severe head pain, and that he just had this stabbing pain throughout his body. He just like so uncomfortable, and he got this skin rash coming out everywhere. So he told me that, I've done a lot for myself. I've done all type of cleanse, right? He said, I did a lot of these gallbladder cleanse. I expelled like 16 pounds of gallbladder stone and so on. He said, 9 months before I excreted a large tapeworm that looked just like an earthworm. Right? And he said, a month before this, in my bowel movement, I just excrete like a nest of worms. And just 2 weeks ago, I just have this raw, excruciating pain. That emergency room type of happen. It's so bad. He said, it's so bad. I just want to take like a gun and shoot myself. That's how bad it was. And you can tell that he's on this medication that his naturopath gave to him. The linea, the butricide, the albendazole is all for parasite. So he gave me a little bit of history, and he said, from 16 to 18, I was on an antibiotic for acne called tetracycline. I started my career at 26 years old on Wall Street, and on Wall Street, we are constantly going out, have to entertain clients. So I was on coffee constantly and entertainment-rich diet, every day going out, eating sushi, and so on. So by the time he was 39 years old, he already started to have a lot of issue with his digestive system. So he started to explore and get on these different type of herbal remedies. And he would notice that he got, he say himself, trillions of these tiny white eggs came out of the stool. So that explain all these nests of worms that are coming out of him. He did over 50 colonics, intestinal gland. He did 34 liver flushes, and he collected 15 pounds of gallstone in the last 16 months. He was down to 155 pounds. He's a tall man, 6'4" at 195 pounds. And every day he does all these, because he has access to everything. He do this daily foot bath. He do exercise. He works out. And look at his diet. His diet is really perfect. He's eating steamed veggies. He's eating raw ham. He's eating cabbage. He's not eating wheat. He's not eating any other grain. He's eating quinoa. He's eating pumpkin seeds, which is for the intestine in Chinese medicine to clean out the intestine. He's consuming lentils, black beans. You can tell his diet is perfect. And I don't have to tell him, avoid your Coca-Cola or your sugar or your bread with wheat. He's already like perfect, right? And he said, look, I have access to the world best supplement. I'm trying to stay alive with it. And then he started to name it for me. I have this ProGert from Australia. I have this MMS, and I am on deer antler. I'm doing all this lipospheric glutathione. I'm doing this red California bentonite I get from this mine. I'm on cordyceps, the best cordyceps, of course, from Bhutan. I'm on this chlorella. I'm on this colostrum, etc., and including cayenne, garlic, turmeric. And he came in with like so many, like two suitcases of supplement. I never seen that before. He would come in and he would lay the supplement out on the entire floor. And I have a large floor, and all the supplements are all over the floor. And he would just like tell me where he get all these things, to the point that I start to take note. I say, where do you get the bentonite? And where do you get all these, the deer antler? I start to take note from him because he just have access to the best of things. And yet he's still having this severe head pain that he couldn't solve. So I start to begin to make the measurement and see what the body say. Again, I'm trying to condense here into a few things very focused. I don't have to burden you with so many protocols that I go through. So I look at, again, where does it come from? And the origin of the problem come in as liver and small intestine, all right? And the next thing I ask, okay, so if so, where is the dominant focus? Where is the most stress organ? Dominant focus came in. Look at this, the dura mater. Dura mater is a brain membrane, is located in the brain. And what is the most stress organ? The most stress organ is core, which is heart, and small intestine. So the originated from the liver and the small intestine. The most stressed organs show the heart and the small intestine again, but the focus is up in the dura mater, the brain membrane. Then I look at, okay, what causing it? Does he have a major intoxication? Major intoxication came up, a nosode called angina-com. Angina-com show there's an infection. There's a bacterial infection going on. Where? In the heart, the liver, the spleen, the small intestine, the pancreas, the lymph. Commonly happen most of the time. All infection happen in the digestive system. It's common in a lot of us, right? Liver, pancreas, sometimes move the lymph, but the heart is not as common. But look at this. Also in the dura mater, in the brain, which is very rare for me to see this because thing doesn't just get to the brain that easily. So intox 1, also in the dura mater. And then chloramphenicol. Chloramphenicol is a nosode to show there's an infection with yeast, a high degree of yeast in where? Liver, pancreas, spleen, intestine. Common, we see that. But also dura mater. Again, this is not often to see that go into the dura mater. So now I see, what I do is I read pattern, and right there, it got my attention. The focus in the dura mater, intox 1, angina-com bacterial infection is in dura mater. Chloramphenicol has to do with yeast, also in dura mater, which is very rare for me to see that. And then I look into bacteria. Okay, bacteria. What bacteria is growing? Okay, we have salmonella, so digestive system, in the small intestine, descending colon, sigmoid, all right. Where else? We see that in the pancreas, and then the spleen, but we also see the staph. Not only we see salmonella in the digestive system, we see organisms like strep also in the digestive system, the heart, but I also see staph organism right here. Whenever we see organism of staph, we see pain. People feel sharp pain. People don't feel comfortable. So staph is in the liver and small intestine. All right, that's where it should be. But staph should not be in the dura mater. So you can see right here, I already start to see there's something going on in the brain. Here, he has an infection with bacteria, and also the yeast somehow make it to the brain membrane. And there's also the presence of staph. Besides strep and salmonella, there's a presence of staph here in the dura mater. So that could explain why he's having this severe pain in the head that he could not solve. Let's go to the next slide in here. So I look into a viral situation. Where's the viral located? And you can see beside all the organ, the dura mater also came up. So viral show is not like a virus in the sense, but viral show a process of where the body has a lot of toxicity. The body, the cell, expel the toxins, and the amount of toxin is being seen as a viral load. And this is how I come to understand viral situation. It's not just like a virus that we think of in my book. A viral situation could be because you have too many yeast. You could have a viral situation because you have a long-term bacteria that's growing in the body. You could have a viral situation because you have a long-term enzyme deficiency. Anything can lead to a viral situation, which means the body is now burdened with a load of toxicity. So, but what I want to point to here is to see that the body resonates viral with dura mater, which normally I would never think that would be there. And then also yeast. Yeast often is in the intestine, right? So with Candida albicans, a common organism for yeast, also has relationship with that's common. If it made its way to the liver and pancreas, that means these organs are not overloaded. But also in the dura mater. So again, I just want to point to that, and I will come back to this. Then I go into fungal. Yes, there's a resonance with fungal and that is located in the liver, and it has relationship with wine, fruit, grains, and sweet. So look at the pattern here when we go into food. We see all the sweet, the grains, and the fruit. So all these sugar production, and also the wine. Wine is also another form of sugar production. So remember when we talk about how perfect his diet was, he's eating steamed veggies, he's eating quinoa, he's eating cabbage, he's eating pumpkin seed, but he didn't mention about the wine here. So I asked him, look, you mentioned everything, but I'm seeing wine came up. Like, so can you tell me a little bit about the wine? And he said, Kimchi, I have always been eating very perfect. I've been doing so well. Everything was good. And then about a few weeks ago, I met someone, and so I started to have a girlfriend. So we went out, and I said I've been doing so well. Everything was good. So I started to enjoy. I thought I could enjoy a little bit of wine with her. So I began drinking a little bit with her. I said, okay, all right. And so I said, when did you start drinking wine? He said, about 2 weeks ago. Right. So next, and I will come back to that. Next, I look into his immune system. His immune system on the scale from 1 to 5. Now 5 is the worst. Immune system should be all up, should be at down 0. She's down 3. So that means his immune system is quite compromised at this point. And then when I look into autoimmune, I get a resonance with autoimmune, and that's not good. Autoimmune show that the body is now to start to destroy itself, and the autoimmune is on, and it's on in few locations. The autoimmune is on in the liver, the spleen, and the small intestine, and the autoimmune came on because of the amount of bacterial, viral, yeast, fungal, not having enough enzyme, of the dysbiosis in the small intestine, or parasite. That's what it turned on the autoimmune. So now let me go back into the key remedies. You can see here the pattern, a remedy called Utolin S, potency 4x. Utolin S matches all these point right here. The key remedy, even in this page, we can see that what balance the focus in the raw matter, it say Utolin S. We can see the body only one remedy called Utolin S, and not remedy for yeast, not remedy for bacteria, not remedy for for enzyme and so on. It just only one remedy. No matter what I do, where I go, it just keep pointing. I want this remedy, Utolin S4X. So what is Utolin S4X? Utolin S is a remedy that made from the Mycobacterium fly. It's a bacterial that they found in the cold-blooded sea turtle. So what they do is that they culture this bacterial, then they introduce into the body. And when the body see this remedy, it start to react to it. So this remedy help modulate the immune system. However, since it is from a cold-blooded sea turtle and we are warm-blooded mammal, we cannot get it. So what it does, it tricks the body, it tricks the immune system to think that, oh my God, something horrible is coming into the system. We need to do something about it. But since it's from a cold-blooded sea turtle and we are warm-blooded mammal, we cannot get it. It helps modulate the immune system, trick the immune system to think something is terrible is going on in the body. You have to wake up now to do something about that. As a result, the immune system will begin to get up and go to work. And so think of it as Utolin S is like a terrorist, right? A clone terrorist. It's not a real terrorist, but it caused the police to be so alarmed they start to go up, get up, and begin to go to work and round up everybody else that is not right for the system. So that's how this remedy works, Utolin S. And whenever Utolin S is being called in, it shows there is a deep-seated viral condition going on. They use this in the past to treat tuberculosis. They use this in the past to treat syphilis. I have seen it used in brain cancer, in very deep-seated viral condition. Could be cervical cancer, could be any type of cancer. Again, its job is to modulate the immune system, wake up the body immune system, natural innate immune system to get up and to do the work. So what is the body is telling us here? It said, look, this is a deep-seated viral situation. It has been there for a long time, that you really need something more powerful to wake up the immune system and force it to go to work. So what happened is that I see that he was doing well, everything with this naturopathic doctor. And then he started to have a girlfriend and begin to go out and have a good time, begin to drink some wine and so on, and eating a little bit of his diet. And as a result, it started to manifest not only in his digestive system, but came up to his brain. And that caused him to have a severe pain because there's staph now growing, there's yeast growing in the body, but made its way to the dura mater. And that's why he had this intense headache. So I told his naturopathic doctor, I think this is what you need to do for him. Give him some Utolin as a remedy, as asked by the body, and see how he does. So November 10th, just shortly after, he came in and tell me all his symptoms, all the excruciating pain, head pain went away. His sinus opened up, and that 90% of the head pain was gone right after the administration of the first dose of the Utolin S that his naturopath gave to him. In this case, he gave him a shot of the Utolin S, the injection of the Utolin S, and I did not see him come back again after. So the few case study I was just sharing with you there is to illustrate the intelligence that our body has. The super intelligent network that is already built within ourselves. So we can access that. We can all access it through different ways. The way that I do here through retropathy is just one way. You may be able to access it through your way, to your own way. There are different ways to access it. And the reason I am interested in this, and it fascinates me, and I stuck with it because I just have this curiosity about the body. When I went to acupuncture school, and I would learn, for example, for this condition, liver young rising or spleen dam deficient, you use this Chinese formula and so on. It could be this Sikrimania and so on. But I always have a question, how do I know it works? How do I know it's the right thing? So I always have this question, how do I navigate this? And this is all these supplements, all these herbal remedies, all these food, all these whatever that you want that you consider taking. How do you know it's good for you? How do you know it's right for you? And how do we know is this remedy is effective? And if so, what would be the dosage? How many drops? How many capsules? So I just have this burning desire to know, like, how do we know this in order to learn from this? So I spent the last 30 years just sitting there, and as you could see, just collecting data in details and ask the body all kinds of questions and connect the dots together. And I found that even though I may not be trained formally through a medical system, even though I'm not a physicist, even though I do not understand everything in the universe, I do find that if we do have a way to access this intelligence, network, if we have a way to communicate with the body, it absolutely will talk to us. It absolutely will give us a feedback. And I found that that the answer and the solution most of the time can be found within the intelligence of the organism. And that's what Resopathy is about. And that's what I am here to share a few, some of this knowledge with you. So through 30 years of sitting there and collecting data, I found that if we can be accurate with our information, if that information is reliable, and if that information is consistent and giving us consistent result, then we have a method. So a method that gives us accuracy and reliability and consistency is worth looking to explore. So Resopathy for me is, I call it the ARC Qualified, ARC Qualified, is match that level of integrity that I need in order to help guide me through this process to understand the body. And I would like to end again with this quote, and perhaps you can understand a little deeper this time after the presentation, that the day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. Thank you so much, and I am now ready to take any question that you may have.
Thank you, Kimchi. Thank you first that you woke up early to honor us with this great information. We understand now something about Resopathy, how the vibrations work, to decode, to talk to every cell in the body, to understand the cell. We do have many questions out there, so I'll kind of raise this question, or Orchi, would you like to raise those questions? And if at the end, if we have time, then please also tell us, how do you, just give us a kind of a sense, how do you really look at or study someone very far in distance? Orchi, would you like to pick up the questions, or do you want me to do it?
So I can do a few of them. Yeah,
can you please?
Yeah, sure. So I think the first question, there are a lot of questions already here.
The first one is from iPhone to everyone.
Ma'am, have you dealt with a case having post-COVID complications like fibrosis and lung complications?
Have I seen, have I worked or have I seen post-COVID complications?
Have you dealt with, so I suppose, have you worked with someone like that?
Have I dealt with a COVID complication? A few. Yes, a few. What's interesting is that some of these people I know, I already know their data, working with them for a few years. Some of them are brand new. And so what I found interesting is that the people came in to me, of course, they have issues, or otherwise they wouldn't come in to see me. And of course, yes, I do see some of people with normal data. When they come in, they say they have COVID or they received the vaccine. I see the data came in differently. Some of the COVID symptoms very much, again, I just look to see where it is and how bad is the situation and so on, how's the immune system. It varies in each person. Many times it does look like it imitates a little bit like a flu symptom. And again, whether you call it flu or COVID, or if you call it an autoimmune, it always had to do with how now is your immune system, where is it located, and what's causing it. and and why is the person tired? Why is the person digestive system is off? And what I do is, again, I just match what is it that the person want. Most of the time, people say I need more energy, so I just find the remedy to match the energy. Or sometimes it increases the load of infection. So if it's a low of infection has to do with bacteria, you need to address the bacteria. If the low infection has to do with a deficiency of minerals and enzyme, you need to deal with the deficiency, the enzyme or the mineral. Basically, you always need to trace back to the root problem. Where does it come from? Yeah, and everyone manifests differently.
Yeah, of course. So we have the next question from Ankur, who is one of our scholars. So he's asking, thank you. He was thanking you for such a wonderful articulation of one's art, that is reciprocity. But I think it is also very much scientific. So I'm personally very interested to know the details, as I'm coming from a background of physics. So I'm actually a scholar of the professor who was talking just before you. So I'm very much interested in the technical details of the like how you measure that and everything. I'll mail you after this session. So, but his question is, he wants to know if you have thought of a certain kind of self-diagnostic toolkit for few of the common issues we all are suffering as a consequence of modern day lifestyles. Maybe I think he's meaning stress or something like that. Ankur, if you could clarify, like what sort of issues you are.
Yeah, sure. Like stress, not finding interest in the work we are doing, feeling lethargic, not motivated. So these are like quite common to most of us.
So self-diagnostic toolkit, that is his.
Because like she cannot treat most of us. So maybe like she could come up with something which can give us some positives to treat ourselves,
Yes. Yes. First of it is think of the age span. As kids, we are different. As when we reach adulthood, we are different, and then of course later on in our life, we are also different. So as we pass on through the years, then the question of hormones also coming in. Do we, as women, do we still have our period? And once our hair start to turn white, for example, we are now don't have the same amount of hormones like before. So once our hormones are down, it's like the protective blanket is being pulled away. So now we are more exposed, right? So many things could happen. If we have wrong bacteria, it can take down our energy. If we are consuming too much sugar, yeast growth is also can take down our energy, and our brain can no longer focus, for example. So what are the things that you can take? You can take things. Of course, we can do things, but sometimes it's not about taking things. Sometimes it's about removing things first. So think of it as a ship, right? The ship is going on sailing, and one day you see it has less power. It cannot move as fast. So before you think about adding in turbo engine to make it go faster, you may want to scrape up a few barnacles. Right? So sometimes it's about removing. But also, as we moving on further in life, sometimes our energy is collapsing. We don't have a lot of energy, right? And just we don't have a lot of energy, we could come in with great nutraceutical, vitamin D, vitamin C, and glutathione. We can bring all of that. But sometimes we just don't have the energy to address, to even be absorbed. And sometimes you have to add in energy first so that we can then have energy to detox. Yeah, that makes sense. Just like this. It's like your house is dirty. And you say, wow, the house is really dirty. We need to clean up. And the owner of the house is so down, so tired, he couldn't even get up to vacuum. So now you have people that want to sell you high-tech vacuum cleaners, high-tech broom, high-tech mops, right? Everything to come and clean the house. But it's not that you need a better vacuum cleaner, a better mop. You don't even have the energy to get up to carry the mop. So sometimes you need to increase energy first. So to answer that question in general, you know, we all have that ability to tune in. So now you don't have what I have. You don't have the device there to tune in and to measure, but you all have that sense where you can, when you reach for certain thing, right? Suddenly your body say, I want that or I don't want that. So you can develop that sense. In the old time or even now, people sometimes use a dowsing rod or a dowsing mechanism to translate that energy. Do I want to go there or not? So that's one way to access that. I like this technology because it allows me to be more precise, to really understand. But you have that ability within yourself. For example, you go to a party. You already have that. You say, I want to talk to this person excites me. Oh, I don't want to talk to that person. Your innate ability is already built in you. You can learn to develop that over time. I'm just here as one way to help guide you, to help expand that sensitivities you can see, but we all have that ability. So to answer that question, it's I can say in general, most of us can use a detox. Most of us, you know, we get into our 30, our 40, if we've been partying a little too hard, drinking a little too much, eating a little bit of sugar, maybe a break from that will help. The body does not like the same thing all the time. Excuse me, all the time. It needs a break. So whatever you tend to do the most, take a break from it and then come back to it.
Thank you very much. We have another set of 2 questions. Can we take it? I think that's the last one. We can take it.
Yeah, we just have 2 more minutes to.
Yes. So Gokul Muthu is asking, have you trained people to practice this art? Is there a systematic course of training? That is his first question. And the second one is, have you done this test and therapies on animals?
Let me answer the second question first, and I go back to the first question. Have I done it on animals? Yes, I have. Not by choice, but by my clients would come in and ask me, Kimchi, could you do something for my dog? And I say, I'm not a vet. I cannot do the dog. And they keep pushing. To make the long story short, because of time, people keep asking, and so finally I gave in. I do that. I tested 12 dogs with the condition that owner has to be there. The dog sit on the lap of the owner. Depends on the size of the dog. I test a small dog to 3 pit bulls. So the pit bulls are bigger. So they lay on the floor. The owner lay on the floor with them. The electrode right in here, where you see right here, the electrode is touching the dog with the owner. And then I would use the owner as a surrogate. And so I would test him. So that this one touch, he hold it with the dog, and I would test the owner, and I would start to measure, right? And then I get the feedback, and surprisingly, the data come back completely different. And so we start to give the dog the food that it needs. And then the remedy it needs, and the dog get well. I got 12 of them in the past, and they all get well. And then back to the first question. The first question about training, is that correct? Is about training?
Yes.
Yeah. So it is my vision and my desire to begin to pass on the knowledge to the next generation. I lost my house in the wildfire a few years ago. And so the message I got very clear is that it's time for me to begin to share this knowledge with the next generation. And so I am in the process of putting this together to form an institute, a Resopati Institute, and to begin some kind of formal training, whether in-person or online training. And I welcome everyone that have an interest in this field of measuring the body electrical field, or to understand the non-physical phenomena, to come and join me and help me with this process.
Wow, thank you, madam. Thank you, Kim.
Can you share the link, so actually? I think if you could share the website or the institute link, it would have helped us.
So the website is resopathy.com.
Okay. We can find all the details of the training process.
It's not on there. It's just in the process of forming. It's the training is on there, but you can contact me or you can contact Dr. Samdu Shetty. And I take just 30 seconds here to talk about remote testing that Dr. Samdu Shetty has asked me, which I did a little experiment on him. Since COVID happened, most people cannot travel. I do have people that travel from all around the world to come here, but since COVID, there's less traveling. So people have asked him, gee, would you do remote testing? Would you do a Zoom testing? I hesitate at first and did not want to go there. But I had the experience back in 2008 when I did a session for someone in Sweden, and it absolutely worked to the point it shocked me. But I kept it very private. I did not want to go there. I did not want to tell people about this, and I kept it very quiet, but I continued to experiment with it for the many years. So since COVID happened, I just feel that it's time that I should step out and begin to share some of this and begin to explore that dimension. And I did. So 50% of my clients is currently on Zoom, and you just appear on Zoom and I begin to apply the protocol. I do my normal thing and the data come back matching the person. It's not my data. And just like what I did for Dr. Samdu Shetty, it came back and I would say, this is what's going on. And people would nod and would say, this is exactly what's going on. But that alone is not enough to satisfy me. I need the result. People apply the protocol, they get the result. And that's when I take it seriously. For me, it is important to see the result.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have exceeded our time. It's so much of interest. There's so much of questions out there. Like Orchi had her, how do you really do it? Of course, that's a long, long process to tell us how you do it. But this gives us an idea why we need this non-science, as you call, trying to understand human body through resonance, through electrical field. I think this is a great science and it's going to transform the wellness on this planet Earth. But like you said, you need to share this out, and you will find a lot of students from IIT Kharagpur who will be interested once you have your institute going. Orchi herself is very interested. I myself at this age is very interested. But there are younger people who should take it. And thank you so much for finding time to share all this wonderful thing that you've been doing for humanity. We wish you all the best. Be well and be happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm very honored. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So with your permission, let's conclude today's session, not just session, today's program.
Yes, let's close. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. All right. So we have another 5-10 minutes, maybe.
I think so we can request our participants, they may leave. Only those who are volunteers, please stay back. I mean, you don't need to stay back now. We are meeting